YouTube, like as in
5 minutes late. The hell. Hello everyone.
Evening.
It's all kicking off here, isn't it? Bloody hell, what am I missing out here on the chat? How are we all doing? This isn't locked down. Oh, I haven't locked it down to everyone on there. Oh dear. Giving this one away for free. I don't think I can go back on it now, can we? I think we're just live, aren't we?
Looks that way.
It is, isn't it?
See, Benno disappears for a week and it falls to pieces.
It goes to shit, and we've just giving the show out for free. I do apologise.
Don't tell him. He'll want his cut.
He will, won't he? Well, I'll take the heat for this one. Apologies. I wasn't 45 minutes late. Let's face it. Come back on here at 11 o'clock, did we, Gareth?
There's no last train homes to be missed. You're all right.
Yeah, exactly. How the catch?
I don't know if this is your Wi-Fi that's fucked still, JP, but you're breaking up a lot for me. I don't know if people in the comments agree or not.
Let me know if that is the case, because my computer isn't finding it's decided not to recognize anything like on the internet at all. So like it's absolutely ridiculous at the moment. So at the moment I'm using like tethering from my phone. So am I still freezing?
You're all right then. That sentence was fine, but you've just kind of paused.
That sentence was fine.
I heard you talking about my favorite word, tethering.
I hate it. I hate the Wi-Fi in this flat. It's the fucking death of me. It really is. Ah, bollocks. Get this back up. 1 second. Let me see if I can just go to the Wi-Fi hotspot instead. This is rock and roll exciting stuff. You could help. No?
I was going to say, you can just bump it off the lad's phone. It'd be all right.
Well, that's what I'm just thinking, yeah. I'm just thinking if I can get on here. But it's just, it's the adapter options yet again. It's just fucking ridiculous. I'll try and get this to work on here at the minute. Is it still coming up really patchy? This is a terrible free advertisement for the live version of the show. It's not normally this bad. Is it still really patchy at this point?
I thought it was getting better there, but then your voice was all out of sync with your face then.
Right. How's this? Yeah? Getting better?
I can hear you.
You can hear me. I might end up having to go dark for periods of this if this is the case.
As per normal.
Yeah, very true. Is the audio sound all right?
Audio's all right at the minute. Yeah, that's fine. I can hear you again.
If the audio's fine, that's always the main thing for that. That's the thing we have to worry about. So yeah, we haven't got Benno this week. Basically, I mean, it was always going to be a really, really tight squeeze because he was getting back from the wedding and stuff. And it was just a bit. It was just sort of, it didn't kind of work with the timing, and he had a few things to be that he had to deal with. So yeah, we haven't got Benno this week, which is unfortunate in some ways, as we were just talking about off air, because obviously two of the things we're going to be talking about is fucking Bryan and Punk, which if there ever is a topic that is in Richard Benson's wheelhouse, it's that one. Yeah. And then alongside it, there's a talking Nick Gage versus Matt Cardona, where it's been pretty widely known that you're not a Nick Gage fan.
Don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
That's mate.
Well, if anyone's causing the ruck here, it's Nick Gage himself. Let's face it. He's the one who's gone. Yeah, he's the one who's decided to tee off about it. So that's part of the issue. Is that obviously we're going to be talking about it, but we've got WH Park on tonight from post wrestling, post Pure S. It's very weird for me because we're going to be talking, like I say, about Nick Gage, Matt Cardona at some point. And yesterday we were talking about Akira Taue versus Mitsuharu Misawa in granular detail, as I told you before. Yeah.
Very different. Two very different matches.
Gareth's Matt Cardona t-shirt is in the post.
Yeah,
Benno on Friday was fucking buzzing. He was just desperate to record something about it.
That didn't show up in my feed though. Like when I was like trying to listen to that on Saturday, and it just didn't show up in my feed all day. And then like Benno sent that screenshot that it was in his feed. I don't know what was fucking wrong with. Don't know what was wrong with my feed, but yeah, it just wouldn't show up. So I didn't get I haven't had the joy. I'm gonna have to go and log into the Patreon page to listen to that one. But I'm guessing he was a wee bit excited by the news.
Oh, he's absolutely buzzing, like completely buzzing about it. And I won't lie, it was a topic of conversation at the wedding, mentioning it as well. Just to say, like, obviously, we'll talk about the wedding when Benno's on. I mean, suffice to say, it was great. And no doubt you all would have seen the pictures and the rest of it. But we're going to talk about that kind of next week. This is all stuff I'm going to be doing in the preamble of the bloody show anyway. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah. It's so when you say it was a topic of conversation at the wedding, was it enticing to anybody else?
Might well have been.
Get anybody else interested in coming back into the wrestling fold?
Might well be. That's all I'll say on the matter.
Speaking of throwing items into rings at people.
Well, I think that's going to be like the kind of trying to explain that to him is going to be a bit weird because that obviously hadn't happened at the time. Like woke up to that on Sunday morning, just like, what the fuck is going on? Oh my God. He didn't have, he had a kind of, we'll talk about the wedding in a lot of detail about the stuff on there. But yeah, we did talk about it because obviously I was talking with his brother, Sam. Martin was there as well. Like it was one of these things. It was like genuinely exciting. So yeah, very good. Oh
yeah. Some of us go and watch wrestling.
That's true. And then joining the pre-show. Hello, WH.
Can you hear me?
Can hear you.
We can. You are live.
Should I start the
You're live on YouTube. And WH, I fucked up because this was meant to be put on the private feed and I ballsed up here. And so we're just on the GRAPPL feed at this point on YouTube. So
okay.
Very exciting.
I know. Everyone can see me on the YouTube.
Everyone can see on the YouTube. I think I can't go back on it. I know, Ivan. And God bless you for being so honest, some of you. I'd have been tempted just to fucking leak it if that's the case. I will own this. This is my bad. I apologise to all the Brit Wrestlers dead.
I see on the comments, I can see all the peanut gallery comments here.
Yeah. And how are you today? How is
I'm good. I got a new T-shirt. It's my New Order Substance 1987 T-shirt.
Oh, nice.
Good work. You're a big New Order fan, aren't you?
I also got my Joy Division Unknown Pleasures T-shirt, so I'm like Kyle O'Reilly that way too. So
do you know what? Because obviously, like I was waiting today, hoping it was going to turn up the Long and Winding Royal Road T-shirt, but it hasn't yet. But like I'm waiting for that to.
Oh, you're just wearing that atrocity right now. I see.
Well, I thought I had to just because
no accounting for taste. WH, no accounting for taste.
I can count on you at least, Gareth. You and I share a hatred of that wannabe Highlander Drew McIntyre.
There can be only one.
Him and his stupid sword. You know, the funny thing about the Highlander movies, right, is that Christopher Lambert, who plays Connor MacLeod of Clan MacLeod, is a Frenchman. But the actual Scotsman, Sean Connery, plays a Spaniard. Explain that to me. I don't understand.
It really makes no sense. I would argue that the rise of Christopher Lambert as an actor in the early 90s is something that we don't talk about enough as a society. Because do you remember films like Fortress?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, that was. Have you ever, unfortunately, watched Gunmen, starring him and Mario Van Peebles?
I have not seen that. Was it he married? Was it Christopher Lambert married to Diane Lane in the early 80s?
Yes, he was. I mean, he just never kicked on, did he? He was doing he was doing bloody French, new French wave in the like early 80s.
He did that. He did Subway, right? He did Subway with Luc Besson, I think.
Yes, that's it. He did Subway, which was.
I'm just delighted that WH give Conor McLeod his full title of the Clan McLeod as well.
It's very important. I'm not even part of that part from that part of the world, but I know you have to say the full clan name, Clan McLeod, right? So, like, Drew McIntyre of Clan Dumbass or something, maybe,
That'll do.
Oh God! I don't know how we're going to shoehorn him into the conversation this week. Luckily, there's no WWE stuff to even remotely go into. Oh no, they're going back to Saudi Arabia.
But, I'd love to talk about Blood Money, Fed, and
yeah,
or the Vince McMahon movie that's going to come out. Right? That's going to be amazing.
Oh God, yeah, fuck.
Jesus.
I'm sure that's going to be such a nice balanced piece to watch, that one.
I can't wait for the part where Stephanie McMahon says, the federal government coming after my father was like 9/11. Yeah, Stephanie, that's exactly what it was like, you stupid bitch.
Yeah, God. Yeah, just the fucking worst. Like, I can remember, that was so bad. I mean, the fact that they're involved doesn't suggest we're getting any kind of a fair trial. A fair trial. Pardon fucking pun. But we're not going to get.
There wasn't one of them either.
It's not the People versus O.J. Simpson, which looked like it was going to be really silly and then turned out to be brilliant. Like, it was just and actually quite insightful at that point in time. Yeah, we're not getting that with this.
What's it called? People versus Vince McMahon. Like, Vince is some fucking downtrodden, like, victim of society or something. His father gave him the company. He destroyed territorial wrestling. He was caught giving steroids to people, an illegal substance at the time. It still is, right? And then he's the victim, and he's now a multi-billionaire who's ruined sports entertainment. He's ruined his own genre that he created out of wrestling. Am I supposed to feel sorry for this fucking guy?
And totally live on YouTube, I'll say allegedly.
Oh, sorry. Allegedly gave steroids to his roster. Hulk Hogan is also allegedly a racist. So.
Yes. That word allegedly does a lot of legwork, I feel, in modern society.
Powerful word, that word.
It's with the amount of. I often think, going through the archives of this, there is at least a dozen slanderous things that have been said over the years and assumptions. Not least, I think, the time we accused Denise Van Outen of murdering Yokozuna. I did that. That was. Do you know Denise Van Outen is, WH?
Well, I know because I listened to your show, so I know about like this breakfast show that Yokozuna was on, and like she just fed him sausages and whatever that shit Miko Satomura has to sometimes eat in fucking the UK now. Yeah, so.
And he died. And I think there's no coincidence there. I think you look at that and he's just putting two and two together and saying, well.
He was a big lad, though, but he was a big lad. So, yeah. Thankfully, Miko Satomura is actually a very fit person and like takes care of herself. And maybe those aberrations of eating an English style breakfast. I've seen pictures of like a proper good English style breakfast. And like, I'd eat that. Whatever she got from like whatever shit hotel she was in, like, no, fuck no.
It was a buffet breakfast at like a Holiday Inn or a travel lodge. It was the worst. I saw Chris Linnaeus put up an absolute.
I was just going to say, if you want to see a good English breakfast, check out Chris Linnaeus' post from the other morning. Because
I think I saw that. I saw that.
That's the kind of stuff where you go, if you're eating that in preparation to drink a lot, like you're going right. I need to get some real just some stodge in there.
Isn't that a hangover breakfast though as well? Like,
it's a hangover breakfast. It could be a hangover breakfast. It fulfills a lot of needs. I must confess, I haven't had a full English breakfast for quite some time. I've been quite good on that front, but God, I was tempted looking at that. It was absolutely awesome. And Weatherspoons you need to avoid coming over WH. Like, you can be fooled by the prices. Certainly the Guinness is a fucking good deal. But
you mean like how Benno's avoiding me and my true discourse about Nick Gage?
It's gonna be fascinating, the debate around that. And to all of you watching on YouTube, we're in the pre-show stages, I should say. There is a point we're going to start the sort of show proper, but this is generally how it works on the Brit Wrest is Dead tier, and I don't fuck up by just putting this live on YouTube for everyone to see. So
even Hamilton says cholesterol on their plate like that's a bad thing.
Well, it's true. Does a job, and Chris Linnaeus as well. I think we're going to have to put that image of him doing the sprinkler.
Oh,
which I think it's after the 2011 Ashes. He was at the cricket the other day for that.
Just so I have to warn you, like half the cultural references you're going to make about sports or TV shows get over my head. If you talk about Doctor Who, I'm okay. Doctor Who and maybe
Marvel
Coupling. I like that show by Stephen Moffat. Very good show.
How's your Sylvester McCoy chat, JP?
I remember that because the one at the circus scared the shit out of me as a kid. Do you remember that? In the Sylvester McCoy episode of Doctor Who. Do you know this one, WH?
You know what? I skipped pretty much Colin Baker and Sylvester McCoy because I couldn't stand what they were fucking wearing. I was like, these fucking clowns are taking on the Daleks. Yeah, fuck you. Come on. Are you serious? Give me my Dracula, Sherlock Holmes, Inverness Cave wearing Third Doctor any day of the week over fucking Colin Baker's clown. That's what he is. He's a fucking clown. It is serious, right? Yeah. Thankfully, when they brought it back, Christopher Eccleston fucking brought it down to earth. Leather jacket, tops, in my opinion. You know, David Tennant was awesome. Like he wore a couple different suits, great. But I love Peter Capaldi's, his first costume, fucking aces. Look, it was very John Pertwee, right? So it's really good.
You've left out Matt Smith, though.
I'm very hit and miss about Matt Smith. His first 2 seasons and Moffat's first 2 seasons as showrunner, really great. And then it got really self-indulgent from both Smith's performance. Like his costuming was great as well. I'll say that. I like the bow tie. So I'm a big fan of that. But the acting, it went like that.
Yeah.
And the writing kind of like that.
Even with like the reboot, I've never watched any of it, and I think it was probably because when I was a kid, like in the 80s and 90s, those Doctor Who's that you said there, they just looked like twats to me. Like they just looked like, and I was like, I can't get behind these guys. They just look ridiculous. So it was just big turn off to me, that one. But yeah, I've never. It always just looked a bit too cheap for me. I don't know. It was just maybe that's part of the charm. It was always like the cardboard looking walls.
I like its like low budget look in the 70s and 80s because I think the writing, especially with the fourth Doctor, Don Baker, was so good. Like you kind of just forget it. It's like watching a stage play with like people in rubber suits, and I can appreciate that because the writing is just really good and the acting was really good in that era. And like the reboot series, I love the reboot series for the most part. But I have not. Someone asked if I've seen series 13. I have not watched any. Really much of the Jodie Whittaker, not because I have no problem with the Doctor being a woman. I just don't think Chris Chibnall is a very good writer, and he's gone fanfic, too fanficky for me. You know, it's like shippers. I hate shippers. If you're a professional television writer and you get all fanficky, you can go fuck yourself.
That's at least Marvel aren't doing that at the minute, though.
No, they're pretty good about like, you know, let's stay the course. We're trying to make a mainstream product for people and not just indulge our own whims and fantasies about these characters. So,
do you watch Marvel, Gareth?
Yeah. It's like I'll watch all the films. I haven't watched any of the series. It's like anything with me. Once something gets to the point where there's just like so much content that it just becomes like difficult to just stay on top of and just like watch it all, then I just inevitably end up checking out, like, because it's that side of me where if I'm watching it, I want to watch it all, and then if I haven't got time to watch it all, then I don't want to watch it at all, sort of thing. And I'm a bit like that with the UFC as well. When they added them like 5 extra weight divisions, I was like, there's no way I'm fucking keep up with this. Like another 200 fighters I'm supposed to go on a journey with.
When they added Conor McGregor, that's when I checked out. Like, oh, this fucking asshole.
Good move.
You were right on that one. I was sold on this. Alan Coonahan's asking here, WH, will you be more or less cutthroat on the main show tonight?
Oh, it depends on you, gentlemen. How do you want me to be? Should I rein it in?
Be your good self. Don't rein it in. Like we want you in the tirade mode. Like,
I have several tirades. They announced Chase Owens to be in the G1. I got a tirade about that fucking guy.
well, your tweet alone was the reason why I didn't watch the Rambo. I just went absolutely not.
I didn't watch all of it. I was like, okay, 2 minutes, fast forward, 2 minutes. I'm like, this is shit. Get to the finish. Oh, this fucking guy won. All right, this is complete fucking shit. What's with the handcuffs? I don't get it. Like, why add handcuffs? Is this
Dom sub stuff? Just get Razor Ramon hard gay and go proper with it. Then
this is like Dick Togo's like fetishes like coming to light. It's like what were him and Sasuke up to in the 90s down in Michinoku, up in Michinoku Pro, the northern part of Japan? I don't know. Sasuke's a weird fellow.
You don't want to know.
You see pictures from Shoe Pro from like early 2000s. It's like stuff that's going on in Michinoku Pro at the time. It's like, and then his stuff with like Onita and FMW is like, the fuck's going on here? What happened to this guy? I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, New Japan sponsored by FetLife is certainly something I think that a lot of us could easily get on board with for that. Seeing how that works. It's technically, am I still all over the place? Am I still lagging?
No, you sound now. You're fine.
Oh.
I don't know how that's happened. No doubt it'll go halfway through at some point.
So Chris Elliott wants me to talk about shippers. Okay, just quickly though. Shippers
go for it.
Are these people who write like slash fiction, and they do it like, oh, fictional character A is fucking fictional character B, right?
Oh,
and apparently, like the really big ones in wrestling right now are like the fucking Fiend shippers and the Alexa Bliss as an 8-year-old shippers, and it's like all kinds of pedophilia shit. And it's like they can all get on a boat and sink to the bottom of the ocean. I wouldn't care, you know. What I mean? Like, so, but it's like people like, oh, you know what, like, Batman is in love with Lois Lane. I'm gonna write some fiction about it. Okay, you enjoy it. Like, hey, I don't care what you do in your private life. Just don't put that. When you put that shit out in public, people are gonna make fun of you. That's more than fair game. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
It's the devil's work, that fucking stuff. It's too much time. I'm very glad you're not hearing this conversation. Sorry.
I've just seen Liam's comment there, and I do want you to I want you to describe what FetLife is, JP. Right next.
I'm not going to. You're all there with internets, Liam. You know how to use it. So that's all I'll say. I'll just throw this stuff out there. I would have thought you would have gotten this when I started talking about the Switch Dom sub Rambo is how I think I described it on one of the early updates. Moving away from that conversation, God, that got down that road already.
Oh God! Sorry, just read Chris Wilson's comment.
Oh,
I know it's gonna be fucking Will Cooling who's gonna write that.
That's why Benno's not here. It was their night together in Oxford, JP and Benno.
Yeah, it's killed us. Yeah, I've decided. Yeah, I'm not going to go into it. I nearly, and then I remembered I'm live on YouTube here, and I'm like, "Ooh, hello." I might need to draw back a bit from that as well.
Indeed.
God bless. We have got kind of running order, WH. It's a weird running order, but hopefully it'll make sense, and it gives you a chance to tee off for quite a while.
We don't just wing this, you know.
Oh God, no.
There's a plan.
There is, and there's loads of wrestling talk.
I gotta say, these comments. This is usually better than what I see when I do MCU later with live with Waiting. Like, hey, GRAPPL fans, you guys are fucking funny. It's a pretty sense of humor.
Oh, they are.
All I get are like,
he's not locked up in my garage, or is he?
All I usually get is like, what do you think about like Sam Wilson as Captain America? I just fucking told you what I thought about Sam Wilson as fucking Captain America. I like it. These guys are actually funny.
Yeah. Give him some basements in the GRAPPL chat.
That's not the case. Like it really isn't. I've not done that for several years. So, but there was a kind of like a slight running order. The first big wrestling topic to go into is Bryan Danielson and CM Punk. Look at me being all serious. Then going into AEW. Then that leads nicely into Nick Gage versus Matt Cardona. Then we've got New Japan after that, and then try and sneak in MLW, which I know you didn't watch WA.
I know, sorry.
I don't blame you. I realise I'm
time.
pissing.
Honestly, I just finished watching Dynamite like an hour ago.
Oh, that's. Do you know what? And I'll talk about it, but the amount of things that got done during that Dangerous Techers versus LIJ match, just the amount of sheer housework. Like I was
finished.
Impressed.
I read Tolstoy's War and Peace twice.
I cooked an ice curry during all of that time. I was like,
I gotta get some water. Hold on a sec.
Go for it. Yeah, no worries. And then, but we'll probably mention, we might mention Catch at the start. What do you reckon, Gareth? Because then you can talk about.
Hey, you're the host, JP.
Don't start doing that. It's going to go badly wrong. I should be nervous about this. I've got dubious fucking Wi-Fi on here, and I never normally host well. But like for this one, this is going to be good fun. No one's ever pretended this is hey, I've tried to bring intellectualism into this.
I thought we did that when we referenced like 80s new wave French cinema with Luc Besson.
We did
before The Professional and
the stuff where he just pervs at women. Apart from Taken, which I will maintain.
He didn't direct that. I mean, he produced that.
I know he produced it, but and that's what he does these days, doesn't he? He just produces action films in Europe. But
yeah,
one of the things that I love about Taken is at the end, and Mark Commode got this absolutely spot on. Who's driving the boat? That's never gets answered at the end of Taken because he kills everyone's dead, and it's just him hugging his daughter, and it's just a boat going down the Seine. It's quite incredible stuff.
It'd be great. It'd be great if the autopilot off Airplane.
Oh,
just with a nice captain's hat on.
You mean that's Kenny Omega's favorite pilot? You know what I mean?
Oh, I love the way he ends up with the wife. Does he end up is he in the sequel as well? The one where they go to space? That captain,
the inflatable doll one.
The inflatable doll from Airplane.
Probably.
We don't speak about Airplane 2 enough.
I was going to say, I think I've only probably seen Airplane like 100 times, easy. I think I've only seen I've seen Airplane 2 once. I don't think I've ever watched Airplane 2 more than once. Is it actually worth watching?
I don't think I've ever seen it. Is there an Airplane 3?
There's an Airplane 3?
I think there might be.
My God. I always put Airplane and Naked Guns as they were films that my dad would be near pissing himself to. Like the Naked Gun, like in my mind, I think the first time I saw that, I was keeled over with laughter. And I won't lie, it's the entire bit where he sets fire to that office and he just like bursts through the window and all the rest of it. It's absolutely great.
No, there's no Airplane 3.
There is no.
I still think Airplane's as good as it gets. Like I love that. And I was actually watching a bit of Naked Gun the other night. It's one of those like flicking through the channels and you'll give it a 10 minutes. It was when he was down and he was doing the Queens at the baseball and he was he's doing the national anthem and giving all the players a check and all that.
Enrico Palazzo.
Enrico Palazzo. Amazing.
I think the first Police Academy, it's not the same creators. That's a really funny movie. But I bet it's so politically incorrect now.
Oh, gee. I watched it during lockdown with my sons, right? Oh, God. Like, the levels of casual racism are, like, it's absolutely incredible for what it is. Steve Guttenberg, like, it's good. Like, don't get me wrong. I laughed at some of the stuff. Particularly, like, there's just this one line that he just sort of goes, "No one screws with me, Mahoney." And he just says to him, "Well, Monday you meet the right girl and all that'll change." And he shoots the roof. And I just pissed myself laughing. And I went, this film still has that effect. But yeah, in the cold light of 2021 eyes, there's problems. Like, and that's leaving out the Blue Oyster Bar, which is really the least of them.
I think I went to see Citizens on Patrol for my 9th birthday. That was my 9th birthday party, Police Academy 4.
Oh, God.
There's a highlight.
Right, we should get started.
Let me just go and turn the dishwasher off because
Yeah.
Sarah's helpfully walked into the kitchen and
You
turned the
go
dishwasher
and
on right
do-
opposite where we're recording a podcast. So
That's all right. I did all mine earlier on today. It was a good drying day here in the UK, not as sweltering. But yeah, we'll get into some of this chit chat at the start as well, and then, like I say, we'll get going and see how we get on. I'm excited.
It's Barry Benno this week episode, right? That's the name of the episode. Barry Benno.
It's a very Benno week. It really is. It's like it's the Benno podcast without Benno. Is how it feels. Like in a lot of ways. God bless him.
He looked good. I saw the picture, like you and Joe and him at the wedding. It was like I thought he looked good.
Yes. Oh, he looked very, very dapper. Like he rocks a good smart jacket and a pair of shoes. He does.
And the hair gel. The hair gel was very good.
Oh, and the hair gel.
Yeah.
And Steph looked like just regal as always. And there's me turning up in a pair of fucking Reebok trainers and a suit and a red tie.
But you matched the core of the groom, so it was okay.
That's why I did it. I thought, well, if he can wear trainers, why the hell can't I? So there we are. Right. I'll count us down. Just need to know at the time.
How are we doing this intro, by the way?
Do you want to do WH at the end after Gareth?
Sure.
Go. Let's do it. Let's try it. Let's attempt it. Okay. In 3, 2. Hello, and welcome to Spotlight, the official podcast of GRAPPL. I'm JP.
I'm Gareth.
Greetings, GRAPPL fans. This is the daily update. Oh, wait. Wrong show. Sorry. That's my audition to take your job, JP. Hi, I'm WH Park. I'm not actually British. I'm from Canada. I'm part of the colony, part of the empire. Used to be.
Part of the Commonwealth Games, mate. That's good enough for us.
Commonwealth. So my driver's license is good in your country and in Australia. So kudos to that. But yeah, I'm filling in. Not filling in. I'm supposed to be a guest, but Richard Benson, my good friend Deathmatch Richard, is not here because he's a fucking coward. Because he doesn't want to hear the truth about Nick Gage and his fucking game changer wrestling. All right. And fucking guy can't even pronounce the fucking I in someone's name. He pronounces it with an H. Like, how do you, so quickly, sorry. WAI. That you pronounce that way, right? You would pronounce that way. He pronounces it as wa. How the fuck do you mistake an I for an H? We'll get into that, but that's just my first question out there for the chat people here.
Hey, well, he missed that E in my name as well. I'm a Garth, not a Gareth, so there you go. Maybe
Nick Gage
he's not the most educated bloke. No,
he's not an academic. All right, that's not going to happen at any point. I mean, he'd be good for a study for a postdoctorate research. I don't know quite what but it'd certainly be intriguing. But yes, as you will have already heard, we don't have Benno this week, but we do have the inestimable WH Park. How do we find you today in Toronto? Is it locked down? Is it all good? Is everyone getting vaccinated?
Most people are getting vaccinated. It's good.
Yes.
Things are shopping's pretty much open. I think indoor dining's gonna happen soon. I mean, it feels like things are getting back to normal, but we still wear a mask, which I'm fine with. I when I work in retail, so I wear a mask 8 hours a day. But I bought these extender things that you can extend so it doesn't put as much pressure on your ears. It's great. It's a lifesaver. By hour 4 of work, and my ears are killing me because of the hoops over the. I'm just thank God I'm wearing this fucking extender because I can just tolerate wearing this mask even more. So it's fine. But it's good. It's a nice day. I've been indoors all day because I had to watch a ton of wrestling to so I can keep up with you guys today and give my hot takes about the greatness of Chase Owens and Kenny Omega's mustache. So there you go.
Yeah, well, you've picked a hell of an episode to jump on for this one, because for those of you who might be watching on YouTube live, because I put the link up for free, so I decided we couldn't really put it down.
What a gent!
At that point, what a gent! But if you do want to carry on watching us live, you can always do that on the BritRes is Dead tier. But we were having a hell of a chat that went around all over the place. I think that's still going to be sort of staying up on the YouTube. But yeah, it went from
allegedly.
Allegedly is really the key word. as well.
Every word that is said after that word allegedly from WH is all allegedly from now on. There you go. There's a disclaimer.
There it is. Yeah. He's just not going to use. He's just not going to need to say it all of the time for it. But yes, but yeah, here we are. We are live. We've got an absolute shit ton of wrestling to get into this week, which is ridiculous. It feels like I'm sort of leaving all of the preamble out of this, but my God, like how have you found, like, in all seriousness, because you've had to watch a load of wrestling today, WH, are we mentalists for watching this much wrestling?
I think it is kind of an endurance of my, for me personally, like, it's an endurance of my, like, patience, to be honest with you. It's an endurance of, like, was my sense of logic, some of the shit I'm watching. And then I honestly, like, just talking about New Japan. So I watched the Tokyo Dome show, and there's like 5,000 people in here. It didn't seem like that. I think it was just kind of the same for Wrestle Kingdom, right? But it didn't seem as empty as it did this past one at the Grand Slam show. And I just couldn't get into it. I kind of was thinking this, like, this is like watching shit in the Thunderdome or the fucking Capitol Wrestling Center is better than this. Like I'm not someone who hates the clap crowds per se, but like JP. So, like, just so people know, JP and I did an episode of The Long and Winding Road, and we're watching Akira Tai versus Misaharu Misawa in Nippon Budokan with a rabid crowd, and going from that to watching, like, modern day Japanese wrestling in 2021 during clap crowds. It was more than watching something from America and then watching something from Japan. It's like, it was just such a startling contrast. And I was just, like, amazed that they're still having matches go over 20 minutes, like, when they don't need to. Main event, if you want to make a 30-minute main event between Shigeru Takagi and Hiroshi Tanahashi, people will be happy. You don't need to make a fucking tag match, your semi-main event, your semi-main card between, like, a bunch of mid-carders and one main eventer. Like a fucking 40-minute match. Why? Like, what's the point of that? It just angered me, like, things like that, right? Like, why you have to have, they feel like New Japan feels like we have to have long matches because the fans we have to have shorter amount of matches because we don't have as much talent available to us. But we have to make the matches longer. No, you don't. You just have to make good fucking wrestling matches and people will be happy. They don't need a 5-hour show. 2.5 hours, 3 max with an intermission. That's all you need. If I'm there live and I'm stuck there for 5 fucking hours in this building full of people who might have COVID, I'm not going to be happy about that.
Do you know what? It's funny you mentioned that, because I was going to ask you about the sort of wrestling you're watching over the pandemic, but this has been one of the big problems, isn't it? It's like what we think of as an epic now. It's that idea of those big blockbusters that go 3 hours needlessly, and you don't need to have a 3-hour film. You can tell this story in 2 hours a lot of the time. Like, there's so much, like, kind of editing that doesn't take place. But for the stuff you've watched over the pandemic, do you think it's gotten worse? And then obviously in New Japan, it seems to.
New Japan, definitely, it's gotten worse because I think they're just grasping at straws because, like, all these moves seem to be financially motivated, right? Like having all these Cork and Hall shows and holding a Tokyo Dome show. Like the Tokyo Dome show, I kind of feel is a leftover from maybe 2 years ago where they probably booked it 2 years ago to capitalize on the Olympics. People maybe who were coming in, like tourists coming in, okay, well, we're here, we're going to go see a wrestling show. Maybe that's kind of my theory about that. But definitely the booking and, like, the touring schedule is just ridiculous. And I think New Japan is just steadily declining. When we get to talking about the G1, I guess, like, at least the one thing that's been announced for. I mean, that to me is just like, that's also like grasping. Like, you're scraping the bottom of the barrel, really, because, like, you don't have as much resources available to you. So it's like I'm gonna make pasta, but I don't have any sauce, homemade sauce. So I'm just gonna grab the fucking ragu shit from the fucking can, right? And I'm just gonna use 3-week-old fucking onions instead of, like, my fresh garnishes or whatever, right? So that's what this name announcement is. And it's like, okay, I don't want to watch the G1 this year. I honestly don't. Like, I don't care who else is in it. Like, this guy and, like, probably at least 3 or 4 more people are going to be in it, and I'm like, you can go fuck yourselves. I'm not wasting my time on this shit.
Can you imagine how many hours of your life you're going to save by doing that? Fuck.
Oh, I
I was
definitely know.
gonna say.
Probably like 4 a day, like 4 or 5 a day. Yes, I have other hobbies, So.
Well, we are going to get in depth on the Tokyo Grand Slam show later on. We've got some sort of news to go through first of all, and I suppose it's fascinating and interesting to hear what you guys are going to make of this, because me and Benno on the weekend show, we got a chance to speak about it. It was a podcast that Benno was going to do Hell or High Water, and he managed to do it outside in the garden, and it was a lovely day, so it kind of worked. And he was absolutely buzzing throughout it, even though it's not out as a video. I can tell you that he was absolutely buzzing. But the big news that came out after we recorded last time is the news of AEW potentially signing Daniel Bryan and CM Punk, or Bryan Danielson, if you want to into semantics for it. It's not pen to paper at the moment. There's been lots of updates. Originally, the first story came from Sean Ross Sapp on Fightful Select, where he'd said about CM Punk being in training and looking likely that AEW was going to be the destination. He's gone down a road of kind of teasing through social media, whether it's playing the Sirius Chicago Bulls song. I can't think of the name of it, but it's phenomenal song. Playing that to the point where he's following AEW, but he's also following like Vince McMahon at the same time, doing all of that kind of stuff. And at the same time, Daniel Bryan was then reported by bodyslam.net saying that he was looking to get into AEW, wants to particularly work New Japan. That's a big part in the factor for him. Daniel Bryan isn't including any licenses. Done deal, isn't it, lads? CM Punk turns up at All Out. What do you reckon?
Sounds like it, doesn't it? Everything's pointing. It's going to be fucking disappointing if it isn't it? Basically now, because it's just been like presented and just reported like it's just a total done deal. So everyone's just assuming that it's going to happen and assuming that the Daniel Bryan stuff's just happening completely. Like, oh god, I mean, just I don't know, where we talk about like in previous weeks and things like that, and you're like, oh, you're getting these ex-WWE guys in and you're padding things out, and it's a fucking Christian Cage or it's a Mark Henry and things like that. You're just like, oh god. But like when it's these two, you're just like, oh shit, yes. Like not only is this like as exciting as fuck, because this just again takes me back to mid 90s and been in my late teens, early 20s when you actually had this shit happening with people, good proper names jumping between promotions. Just the fact as well that they're just like, I think they are going to be like ratings movers as well, aren't they? And then when you're in this like world now where you just get things that are just so close between, relatively so close between the main WWE shows and that, you think, fucking hell, even if both of these just stick 250,000 viewers on the AEW figure, Christ, suddenly you're in that mix of this looking, really, really close. And I mean, literally that news came out, I was just immediately on Skyscanner. I was just like looking at flights to Chicago. I was like weighing up, I was on like the ticket resale sites and, weighing up what
That's
I could,
gone up.
what I could,
$41 for All Out now. Massive shoot up in price.
Oh, well, I was looking, there was decent tickets you could buy, and I was thinking, I'm going to do this. I was like 80% there, and then it's Alex's birthday next month, and he was been banging on at me about getting a fucking PS5 for his birthday, and then he introduced some app to me that like gives you like notifications when one becomes available, and literally the next morning it like sparked up. I got some notification that this PS5 was available, so I kind of pressed it, doing a bit of a charade in front of him, thinking, yeah, I won't get one, and then like went through and got one. I was like, I think there goes Chicago. I think now it's all gone on the PS5, unfortunately, but I don't know. Family, CM Punk, I don't,
There's a lot, isn't it? My God, that you've gone down that direction. What do you make of it, WH?
I think if they both sign, yeah, it's big news. I think definitely for AEW, it's gonna kind of break that TNA kind of streak they've had of signings from ex-WWE guys, and I think these two are such like big names. Like they're bigger names than Christian Cage, Mark Henry, whoever. Like they signed even bigger than I think Jon Moxley at the time when they signed him. He wasn't like that big of a star and not kind of like the name cachet that, like, especially I think Punk has, being out of wrestling for so long. What it means for their actual product. Like, would I start watching AEW on a regular basis? Maybe more for Bryan Danielson, not so much for CM Punk, because I like CM Punk, but I've never been a huge fan of his because I think he's a good wrestler. I don't think he's a great wrestler. He's a great promo. Yeah, for sure. Like, his promos are what draw people into the building. If you look at his matches, at least in my opinion, like he's an above average good wrestler. I don't think he's like an elite wrestler like Bryan Danielson is. Bryan Danielson, to me, if you put him in a feud with people who are interesting, I'll watch his segments at the very least on AEW Dynamite or whatever, or the pay-per-views. If you put him in with fucking Cody Rhodes and Cody Rhodes is beating him, no, thank you. By the way, so I watched Dynamite, and the first thing I fucking get infatuated with is a fucking image of Cody. And the third image I get infatuated with is fucking wife Brandy. What a great start. Anyways, but like I do think it would be a big like business changer for them, for AEW, if they get both those guys. I think more like for the press would be Punk, and more for the in-ring would be Danielson. Would be such a boon to them. I'm kind of curious if Punk does come in. Like, what does that mean for Cabana, like Colt Cabana? Because like there's obviously a lot of heat still between those two, I think.
Yeah, and quite often you maybe get the impression that the one who maybe needs to let things go a bit is Punk himself. And is he going to do that? Because that's one of the issues, is that AEW, it's been said, it's always comes across as being quite harmonious backstage, or certainly in a public facing way. And this is the kind of stuff that can destabilize things. However, this is worth the kind of risk of it. And the hope would be that they would kind of sort things out. I think when it comes to these two signings, it's a really interesting position, because Bryan is the better long-term signing. Not only is he a massive name, he can work. There's lots of fresh matches. He's very giving to his opponents, and there's load of young stars that that he's kind of salivating being over to kind of wrestle with, and it's all fresh. And that's the thing. If he re-signs with WWE, the New Japan thing isn't going to happen, because it just can't happen. WWE would want exclusivity. I think New Japan are doing all right out of this AEW deal at the moment, and so it seems like that's it. And they're not going to put up any barriers to him wanting to work there. And the idea of him having creative, I mean, this isn't Hulk Hogan signing with WCW having complete creative control, and you're going to ruin the company by bringing in all of his fucking mates.
He's going to bring in Brian Kendrick and Paul London and everyone else.
Well, as his Brutus Beefcake.
That's right.
But yeah, it's for those reasons. I think Danielson's the better one. I think Punk, because it's the forbidden fruit, isn't it? It's the one wrestler who, like, kind of, and I remember hearing Joe Lanza talk about this in terms of saying, like, kind of starting that movement. It was the one where he was the first person to kind of really vocalize, a top wrestler vocalizing publicly the problems in this company and the kind of hierarchical system. And that's been the thing that's kind of breaking away from WWE has kind of been the big deal. This would be the biggest thing he could do for that. It's at a point he's going to get well paid. I have massive doubts over the matches. I know I might be just going on a GTS and the fact he hasn't wrestled for a few years, like him in the mask doing shit GTSs. I have real reservations over the wrestling. However, I think, as you said, Gareth, I think these are the guys that get you to 1.5 million. And then you look at TNT thinking, right, what the hell else are we going to do? Your pay-per-view buy rates are going to go up. If they're using the money that they got from the moving to TBS deal from TNT, then this is a good use of that money, because, certainly Bryan is like an absolute get. And, if he comes out at Arthur Ashe, like, my God, that's looking like it's going to be an almighty epic episode for Dynamite for them.
I think with Bryan Danielson, like, the benefit I see with him is, like, if you start going back into the, like, trying to get talent from the indies, like your Wheeler Yuta's and your Daniel Garcia's and people like that, then there's no better person to, like, kind of break them into like a mainstream television product kind of environment than Bryan Danielson, right? So like more than probably any other person on that roster in AEW, in my opinion. Like, and just to clarify, I don't watch it that regularly. So if there's someone else that's qualified to do that as well, that's great. But I think you take him, this guy's so ingrained within that culture and such a hero to a lot of the talent that's in the indie scene right now, that they come into AEW, okay, he's going to want to work like with, I want to work with Wheeler Yuta. I want to work with Daniel Garcia. I want to work with Kevin Blackwood or whoever else gets, brought into the company from the indies, not from Japan or not from the WWE, which I think is so vital. Like for me, like if I could tell to, Tony Khan something, it's like, you should really start scouring the indies more for your talent, not so much your competition. You got your big names and that's all you need right now. But like, you got to start thinking about 5 years from now when those big names are like, excuse me, breaking down, excuse me. And then you need all these fresh talent that aren't, like that are going to be your talent, not the Vince's creations.
I think this is like one of the areas though with Punk and Daniel Bryan. I just think they'll, again, I think what AEW's done well is using the existing names and existing talent to kind of shine a light on some of these younger guys. And I just like, I look at this and just think about like Daniel Bryan just being able to, get in the ring and work with a Jungle Boy, for example, or, I think the benefits that he can bring to that side of thing. And then again, as we've talked about these different, guys who've come through the indies and they're almost like the AEW's homegrown guys, whether it's someone at the top end, like an MJF, right down to somebody like, I don't know, like a Will Hobbs or something like that. I just think the variation of people there that they can get and get in there and have that experience of working with Danielson will just be, help again, just like kick them and elevate them as people. With Punk, I'm less bothered about the in-ring because I don't think these days that's probably what he's about. And people often forget how much of AEW is just built on the promos and the angles as well. And there's at the end of the day, he's never going to lose that gift of the gab that he's got there. He can talk anyone into the building there. And I might be biased. I'm a big CM Punk fan, but like you look at his age. Like the guy's only 42, is he? Is he 41, 42? You look at someone like Kenny Omega's 37. Like, Randy Orton's 41. It's not like he's 10 years older than these guys who are still performing at the top of cards. And he's a guy who's
Christian Cage closer to 50. He's closer to 40.
Yeah,
I say this to 42-year-old.
Exactly. He's still a young lad at 42, isn't he, JP? That's
prime of his life.
That's So I think from that perspective, God, bit of ring time and he'll be able to get back to a reasonable level. I don't think he's going to be knocking 5-star matches, out of the park. But the reality is, I don't think he needs to either. It's going to be just more about the character, and I just think again, just him getting in there and just working some programs with some of these younger guys, putting a bit of spotlight on, making them look a bit more of a star as well, because that seems to be in the AEW model. Again, both of these, I just think they're just going to be a massive get. And like we were saying there about putting numbers on the ratings, like you were saying, if he gets them to 1.5, if Punk and Danielson only got AEW to 1.5, I'd be disappointed. I think these two you should be getting more in the neck of, 1.7, 1.8. It should be up to that territory, really, especially for the investment that it would be to bring them both in. I'd expect them to move the needle in that way. And again, I haven't got the figures to hand, but I think Punk had a pretty positive impact, didn't he, on UFC buy rates when he came in, and that's people actually putting their hand in the pocket.
That did 500,000. And that was a kind of a like he was thrown onto that pay-per-view, and
and that's people paying money. That's not just people just turning a channel. That's actually paying to watch something. So the impact should be huge, I would have thought.
I mean, it's kind of industry shaking, isn't it? Because I think the thing and to go back onto Daniel Bryan, is obviously the big part of this does affect New Japan. Like there is somebody here who wants to come in, CM Punk to New Japan. I just don't think that'd be a thing. I don't think that's something he'd be particularly interested. I don't think it would work or click at all. Whereas Daniel Bryan, on the other hand, seems like he'd be willing to come in. And I suppose WH, like, what kind of impact does that have then on New Japan? Because that appears to be one of the things, and we're going to obviously talk about New Japan later on, but like that's a roster at kind of creaking point. You're thinking of big kind of imports they're going to be able to bring in. Does Daniel Bryan move the needle a lot for them?
Domestically in Japan, not so much, I don't think. But internationally for their subscriptions for New Japan World, definitely. Yeah. And I think that's probably what they're looking at. And I think definitely if they can put him on Strong and they can have him on their live shows for New Japan Strong, if they can work that out with AEW if he ends up signing there, that's a big boon for the US market and their English speaking market, like with their subscription service. But domestically, it depends how they use him, because you got to keep in mind Bryan Danielson is a junior heavyweight in their eyes. Would he be pushed as a heavyweight in the company? I think so, but it's also the perception of like, okay, this guy's smaller than a lot of our guys. Like he's smaller than Tanahashi, and I think he's probably still smaller than Shingo Takagi, who was a junior heavyweight at the start, but now he's a heavyweight now. But like I think it's how you present him if he comes in, his initial couple of first months in the company, like who you book him with and how he's booked, and then if you give him the AJ Styles push, awesome. I think it could work. If you give him a push akin to, I don't know who else like that failed to coming as a foreigner, but you have to treat him the right way, and you have to make sure he gets key wins. I'm not saying give him the title right away, but if he say he debuts in the G1 or something like that, okay, he's got to go to he's got to win like the finals of his block at the very least, if not win the whole one of the blocks and then lose in the finals or something like that. So it's all presentation with him. He has a name because he did so many tours of Japan, whether it was for New Japan or for Pro Wrestling Noah. So he's got that cachet with Japanese fans that way. And like he even did like Big Mouth Lab, which was Katsuyori Shibata's like indie promotion, and he had a match with Shibata on one of those shows, which is a great match, by the way. I urge people to go seek that match out.
Another man we'll be coming back to later on as well, Katsuyori Shibata, and what's happening there. We had a good conversation about him last night. The thing that one of the only concerns I would have is of doing this, and this is maybe part of me being wary from the Monday Night War era, is that you can end up really convoluting stories unnecessarily. So I would say, for example, the fact that, like, say when WCW signed Bret Hart, there were so many things they did wrong. But one of the things was they just didn't know how to introduce him into their storylines. They didn't know how to do that. A lot has been said. They've got a kind of long-term direction with a lot of their programs. They were talking about this FTR Proud and Powerful storyline, like apparently like sort of 6 months ago. Is this the case where if you bring in Bryan and you bring in Punk, are you going to kind of, does it just get too bloated? And at some point, you are going to think to yourself, we need to cut down a bit on this roster. And unfortunately, it's probably some of the people that they've ended up signing in the meantime that maybe are the ones that could have been cut. But is that going to be a problem for them?
I think it's something that we've seen, haven't we, as they've got some of these people recently, like, we've talked ad nauseum about the Miro introduction, and where they almost had to put him on a bit of a holding pattern really for a while and just shoehorn that terrible storyline in there. A little bit the same with Andrade, that there's been a bit of a slow start to the way that he's been brought in, and it's been a bit sort of disjointed really, and it hasn't necessarily been as impactful as it should have been. And I suppose that's one of the problems, is that when you have got long-term stories that you are building, something like the Omega Hangman stuff, which has bled through for 18 months, 2 years now, kind of thing, that it's clear that they have got plans that are much more long-term, that drag through there. Suddenly you get someone like this. It is hard, isn't it, not to just throw them in there into the mix at the top really, and not involved in there. You'd like to think that hopefully, if these are deals that have been done, deals with them being on the table for a while as well. Someone like a Punk, used to say they haven't had 6 months really, that they've been talking to Punk and like laying out plans or thinking about, okay, when we bring him in, we'll do it then, because quite clearly you're never going to bring CM Punk into like a no crowd era business, and clearly is okay to just like hang on and wait and things like that. So you'd like to think that there's a long term plan certainly around some of someone like that potentially, where they have had the ability to think it out in a bit more detail. But yeah, it can be, we've seen that it can be problematic, and that if something doesn't just quite like hit off the back, it feels, I don't know, it feels a bit lame. Some of these entrances that they have done, and then equally you don't want to take it away from anything else, because again, thinking about how much that main event storyline's built, you don't want that being overshadowed by the fact that fucking CM Punk and Bryan Danielson turn up on the same show or a week later or something like that. I mean, I personally I'm not sure Hangman's going to win the first match in that series, but then equally you don't want someone like him to appear less than, if suddenly these two guys pop up at the top of the card. So it's an interesting balance, but equally on the flip side, you can't not do it. If Bryan Danielson and CM Punk are there to sign, and you can bring them into your company and they want to sign, and then you work it out. That's good booking. That's where their metal's really going to be tested, because then you do need to adapt accordingly and just fit these guys into your plans and adjust things. And again, my thoughts on bloated rosters and people being signed up and things like that. Sometimes people have just got to go, and they have, because you can't, sometimes somebody needs to go away to come back as well, and be a bit more popular. And if it means that they're with Rampage, there's more TV time there potentially, so that they can bleed people across there with these relationships that they've got with the likes of Impact Wrestling and things like that. Maybe that's where, as we've talked in the past, an element of a bit of a loan system or something like that. Somebody disappears off AWTV for 6 months or so, and they go and boost things there, but they keep them out of WWE's clutches. Then maybe that's the way this is going to work, with all these this forbidden door aspect, with all these companies working together, moving this talent around, because I think it's going to be needed, because otherwise there's a lot of guys there who's going to lose a lot of value and get pissed off.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I think I really. It's funny. Sorry, WH. I'm going to start talking about football at this point, but it's very much like, I thought you were going to get up to leave. It's a bit. There he is. He's off. It's a lot like a kind of a Chelsea or a Man City, where basically you've got lots and lots of talented, like, kind of wrestlers, and too many, and you're just putting them out on loan. And I think there's the option for it, because, like you say, they've created these relationships. So, for example, someone like Lance Archer, and we'll get into Fyter Fest in a minute, that's someone I can see going back and doing tours on the reg for New Japan, and almost feeling like he could become a New Japan regular. There's a comfort zone factor with him. I think it kind of ticks a lot of boxes, and I think he would also be happy as well. But then he becomes more of an attraction in AEW. I can see that kind of stuff happening. Apparently, Frankie Kazarian turned up at the latest set of Impact tapings. You've got the options of those kind of extra places to go to. There's NWA. There's a good few AEW like wrestlers who were at the GCW shows this weekend, like Penelope Ford and Cesar Bononi. If you're able to guarantee them work and just say, look, we can't give you TV time, and we kind of need to get you more seasoned. Here's these other places that we've got good relationships with, who, let's face it, all of them could do with talent. This seems like a no-brainer, no? How do you feel about that, WH?
About lending out your roster to other people.
Yeah.
I think it's fine. I mean, I think you have to let them go for extended periods of time. Okay, so I know, let's just say, take Jurassic Express, for example. Okay, we don't have anything for you right now. Okay, so you guys can go to Impact and be in the tag division there, and with someone like Jungle Boy, you can work in the X division. I think that would really help him a lot, right? And you can come back 6 months or a year from now, and you're not going to be on our TV. And then when they do come back, it's fresh, right? At the same time, I don't think AEW should have the attitude we're going to keep people just so Vince doesn't take them and put them on Raw or SmackDown or NXT or whatever. Let them go. If they want to go, let them go. Because eventually, if they're going to find out if nothing changes in the WWE, these people after 4 years are going to be like, "Fuck, I don't want to stay here anymore." Calls up Tony Khan and says, "Hey, can I come back?" Yeah, you actually made a name for yourself over there to some degree. We'll bring you back, and they feel fresh. It's like the territory days, and that was a great thing about the territories.
Sean in the
States.
chat just mentioned it. It is
Yeah.
like the territory days, and
Someone jumps from world class to UWF to like Jim Crockett
Yeah.
to like the AWA and to goes to WWF at the time, and then back and forth. That was great. Like as a wrestling fan who didn't get to watch all this stuff on TV, but was following it through the after mags, I was like, oh, that's cool. Oh, the Moondogs are in Memphis now. Look, in WWF. Wow. You know, maybe not the best example, but you know what I mean. It's like Rick Rude is a good example. Like Rick Rude jumping from world class to Jim Crockett, and then he jumps to the WWF, and then he goes to WCW after his WWF run. That's a great example of like how someone keeps their career fresh, and is significant in every promotion that they worked in, and then to the point where they become a main event, and then they become probably the top guy. When he jumped to WCW, he became quickly the top guy, even though Vader was like the champion. Like Rick Rude was the top star. I felt he was the top heel, and he was the head of the Dangerous Alliance. So he
should have put a belt on him, mate. I'm still
definitely
slightly bitter about that international title. It cuts no mustard with me.
Yeah, it's garbage.
It is garbage.
It's like this FTW title that they have in AEW right now.
Exactly.
Not mad on that one. I think Ricky Starks will weirdly make that work a bit better than Brian Cage. He doesn't have too much of a personality on him. Yeah, if we can get back to that kind of territory system, and that's one of the other things, and I know that, like say that them hopefully shipping out possibly some of that younger roster, because they have Dark and Dark Elevation, which Big Tone came out.
No one but John Cena, who's in this chat, watches that shit. So
yeah, like he watches NWA Power as well, which is fucking incredible. Like I find that hard. It's Rian in the chat there has said as well that that we should have known this was coming. Fulham love a good loan deal. Yeah. God, and WH remembering Ted DiBiase's short by modern standards WWF run. How long was that run, Gareth? Was it 5 years?
I think it was 5, wasn't it? 4 or 5. We interchange between weeks, but we managed to reference it every week, so we'll keep it going.
That odd concept of time for all of us. But talking about AEW generally, and I do actually, one of the things I do want to mention is that Benno did say it was a thing that John Pollock also referenced as well about Punk, when he, like, if he says about not watching the product, he name checked Jungle Boy, Brian Pillman Jr., Darby Allin as people he'd be interested in working with and stuff like that. And if I could have one program for Punk to come into, I think it'd be Punk MJF. That would be the one that I'd be going for, because I think the promo battles would be something else. I also think MJF would say some really horrendous shit, which would be fucking hilarious. But I digress. Yeah, this week we had night 2 of Fyter Fest. I don't know how you felt about this show. I mean, obviously, last week we were absolutely buzzing about night 1 as this like fantastic 2 hours of television. I think there were some good moments. I kind of liked the opening and I enjoyed the close. But my God, there were bits in this that felt very disjointed and bits that didn't work at all. And even though it did well in the ratings, you know, did 1.1 million and never really dropped substantially kind of throughout that, stayed at that level for the entire night. I don't know. Which bit of this do you want to talk about? Which WH, you never get to talk. We never hear your opinions on the AEW. What's the thing? What didn't you like about this show? Let's just go into it.
First of all, this Fyter Fest name, what the fuck? What the fuck are you calling it then?
Yeah.
Like, it's like some
amen to that.
Failed, like, fucking festival that happened in some desert where people got dehydrated and starved or something like that. And then Netflix made some fucking stupid documentary about it, and which was getting a lot of buzz. And then, you know, TK and fucking Cody Rhodes were like, "That's hot. We got to name like a special TV show after that." No, you don't. Just have it wrestling related. Really? And why do you continue having it in 2021? Like,
well, in that case, why don't they just bring out a female wrestler called Mare and have her from Easttown, Pennsylvania? Then
why don't you just call it fucking Woodstock then? You know, Woodstock Fest. You know, fucking have fucking 9 Inch Nails covered in mud performing on your fucking show then or something. I don't know, but. That aside, like I thought overall it was kind of a boring show, to be honest with you. Like outside of the angles, like the big Nick Gage thing. Oh, that's kind of cool. Like mind you, I'm watching this all after the fact, so like none of these are surprises to me. But I'm watching like okay, so I have my GRAPPL ratings here. Yeah, Gareth, I use the app.
Good lad.
You know, so, Chris Jericho, Sean Spears. Oh, but chairman? What the fuck is that? This is so stupid.
Yeah, they've got him. He's got a chair fetish.
And then 2 stars. Chris Jericho looks like he's got the fucking reflexes of a pregnant walrus. So these days, Doc Gallows, fucking hate Doc Gallows versus Frankie Kazarian, 1.5.
That was shit.
Darby Allin versus Wheeler Yuta, 2.5. But that's because like it's a TV match. But I like both these guys. I like Wheeler Yuta. I'm a huge fan of Wheeler Yuta. But I kind of hope he goes to Ring of Honor instead. I think he'd be better utilized there. What else do we have here? Britt Baker versus Nyla Rose. Okay, what's the fucking deal with people going on about Britt Baker? She's so overrated. Really, it's character, isn't it? It's like, oh, people got a dentist fetish or something like that. But in the ring, she's fucking bang average. Seriously, like she moves like she's fucking wrestling underwater. Like seriously, right? Nyla Rose, whatever. Like people, oh, she's the next coming of Aja Kong or Awesome Kong. It's like, no, she's like the second coming of fucking that jobber you saw on fucking WCW Saturday night. That's what she's the fucking second coming. She's less than bang average. She sucks. Okay. Then I see fucking Vicky Guerrero out there. I was like, is this 2002 still? Like, what the shit? What the fuck? Why is she still a manager? I don't get it. And then Rebel, don't even get started on Rebel because she ruined like one of the Cinderella tournaments for me. She was in it. Just absolutely horrible. So like I was being generous. 2 stars. That's me being, that's like the Matt Cardona, Nick Gage match rating. There's 2 stars for this. All right. And then the Blade versus Orange Cassidy, 2 and 2.5. I don't even an Orange Cassidy person, but I thought this actually has some decent action in it. John Moxley versus Lance Archer, highest rated thing, 3.25 stars. It was fun, but it's like, U.S. plunder stuff. Like, listen, I if I'm gonna watch plunder stuff, I'm gonna watch Big Japan Wrestling because it's way more intense and like they just go beyond like what you're gonna do in American wrestling, especially on mainstream American wrestling like AEW.
The house that Drew Parker built, mate.
That's right, your boy Drew Parker from Wales, apparently.
So what you're saying, WH, is that you enjoyed the show?
I enjoyed seeing people pop for Chavo Guerrero coming out, and then I go on Twitter and see Alan Cunahan, my good friend Alan Fornell, fucking bury Chavo Guerrero. That was probably my favorite part of that show. And I want to say to Sarah, hello, miss talking to you. See you again in Japan or in Ireland someday.
It was, my God, like there's a lot to unpack. I suppose. In terms of starting off on one of these bits, I actually thought the Britt Baker Nyla Rose match for the women's title, which in and of itself is the high point for viewers in the show. Sorry, second highest viewpoint, and she does well on those quarter-hour ratings. But I think this has been a terrible feud. I think the match was actively bad. I think Nyla Rose has lost something entirely being with Vicky Guerrero. It's just like there was a point in time where there was a real improvement, and it was like it was a lot more interesting, particularly in the matches she had with Hikaru Shida. And this has just been a bad feud to start off with, and it's one that I'm hoping that this is over. But I thought as a match, it just didn't click and gel. I think I went 2 stars on it. I just really didn't like this.
Why do you have Britt Baker pushed the way she is? When you have Serena Deeb that you could possibly sign and push even further because she's such a better wrestler and has just a good personality and
promo company. Yeah. As we've said, it's a promo company.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, and in that sense, pushing Britt Baker makes sense because it's exactly what I can see why they're doing it, and it was working very, very well in terms of the reaction, and she kind of found her niche as a character. I think it's that problem of once they moved past the Hikaru Shida feud, it was like, where do you go next? And then you're thinking to yourself, well, are you going to go down a route of, I don't know. You couldn't do like a Jade Cargill, but you're wondering about, any number like a Serena Deeb or a Thunder Rosa to go to now. Now she's under contract. Maybe they would go down that route, and by God, you'd hope so because she needs that.
You would hope like they start pushing Thunder Rosa more. Like I don't know if Serena Deeb's actually signed with AEW or she's with NWA or whoever, but like I would try to get her.
I think she is signed. I think she
AEW.
did the last date was losing the NWA Women's title to Camille. I want to say that is the case, but she appears not to be there. And Thunder Rosa has been bought out of her contract. And if those are the reasons they went to Nyla Rose first while they kind of do that. But still, I think the Thunder Rosa fuse is the obvious one to go down.
Yeah,
what do you make of
it? That's the one where, like, you know, you kind of like come back to Britt Baker and, you know, like you say, this show being like very much about, you know, it's not all about the wrestling. It's about, you know, the personalities and the characters and something. And that's clearly something that's clicked. And she has got over, and she has proved that she is over with like live crowds and things like that. And, you know, I'll give her like big credit there. She has improved in the ring massively. You know, we've talked about that in the past, that over the, you know, compared to, you know, kind of day one, you know, she definitely has improved, you know, along the way. And she's someone that you look at and you think, like, you know, if she keeps at this, you know, at this rate with the right person, she's, you know, she can be fine. She can be acceptable for TV. Is she going to be like having match of the year candidates all the time? Absolutely not. Does she need to? Absolutely not. You know, she needs to go out there and, you know, get feuds over with good promos and things as it happens. You know, she has had that great match with Thunder Rosa, and those two do seem to, you know, click quite a lot. I know it was a plunder match, but it was you know, it was one that was, you know, massively, you know, well received.
It was a great.
I think there's, you know, I personally think there's legs in Britt Baker as a, you know, as a character and as a draw from a business point of view. This match, though, just don't pair these two together ever again, because it was just as clunky as shit, wasn't it? The chemistry between them was awful, and especially some of the, like, it was almost like some of the move selections. It was like, why are you trying to do this with this person who's like, you know, twice your size? You know, there's no way that this can possibly work smoothly or look credible or anything like that. And they just sort of shit the bed on you know, quite a few like moves throughout this match. It was one that I gave like 2.5 to as well. And for me, it just almost smacked of that kind of like early title defense against the big monster before you move on to, you know, it was the Kane defense, wasn't it? Basically, kind of thing for the recent champion. And yeah, I think there's more people along the line there with the Thunder Rosa rematch, with the Serena Deeb stuff that he says there, where we'll probably see a better version of Britt Baker in the ring as well. But yeah, I mean, this one, just fucking take it and move on. And Nyla Rose, to me, is somebody who, you know, she's a prime example for what we talked about before, of being able to move people around different promotions, have her show up in Impact or something like that, and win the Impact Women's title or something like that, and, you know, get Deonna Purrazzo over this way, and you know, swap it around and bring Nyla Rose back in 12 months as a monster and just kill somebody and have a little 3 or 4 month run and then piss her off somewhere else again, because yeah, she's, you don't want her hanging around and needlessly been stuck in feuds with anyone.
Yeah, although, I mean, we've mentioned the name Guerrero here, and it's hard not to think of it. I mean, this next segment, and it was the thing that kind of, it was just such a bizarre sort of piece of television, because you went from this Britt Baker Nyla Rose match to then a heavily edited down FTR Santana Ortiz press conference that was just, it was weird, wasn't it? It was just, I was just like, what have I missed? Because I thought the last time, I thought the editing was arguably worse than the Kevin Nash on the Broken Skull session, because they're both fucked out of their brains. And I was like, well, you're editing that not only for legal reasons, but it's two lads who are on the piss. And here, it appeared to be absolutely butchered down. It's like, it was weird. It kind of felt very disjointed then at that point. And then from there, we get the Andrade Chavo Guerrero Jr. Death Triangle, lot of stuff not working. Chavo Guerrero clearly having to kind of rescue it in the ring because they've got Andrade cutting live English promos in the ring, and it's just not working at all. Yeah, I don't know. That for me, I think there was just the point of, just to talk about getting Chavo Guerrero Jr. It was like, you know, we'd said on this show, like, replace Vicky. They replaced her, but with Chavo Guerrero Jr. Discuss.
Can I just talk about that interview segment between Proud and Powerful and
Oh, go back to that first if you want to.
So like they're they do the back and forth. They're FTR is putting forth their case, and then it's Santana, right? He stands up and he's pulling all these photos of his life, of his history of his mom and stuff. So, and that's when they cut it, and I'm like, oh my god, he started criticizing white American like entitlement and privilege, and then Cody saw it and he said, we're cutting that.
Hey,
and then the Young Bucks saw like, is he criticizing white America? Cut that. When he's just talking about like how great his mom was, how strong his mom was, that was fine. But when he started talking about white America, he probably criticized Trump. Cody fucking butchered that and cut back to FTR. That's my theory, by the way, on that.
They've been going down this mama off stuff, and sometimes it's like a parody. Like at times, this thing that they have going, that it's a bit like the Yorkshireman sketch out of Monty Python, where it's like, you were lucky. I had to work 25 hours a day in the mine, and then like my parents would shoot me as soon as I got home, and I was forced to sleep in a shoebox in the middle of the road. And it's just these lads talking about poverty. Whereas I'd quite like it if Ortiz went, I grew up in a just generally lower middle class kind of part of New York, but generally I've benefited quite well. But it's very weird, all of this stuff. It can't just be, we hate each other, let's have a match. It's a lot of it's about like, don't mention family, which I don't know if you've seen Fast 9 yet, WH.
Not yet. Oh, we'll be talking about that on this network, I'm sure. Me and Benno,
yes.
When he's not a coward anymore.
He'll be there. But yeah, how does it work? Like, I mean, it's I don't know. It just felt like, just cut this out. Just lose this piece. Did it need to exist?
Well, I don't normally watch Dynamite on ITV, but I did this week, and then I thought, is this ITV that have done this or something like that? I felt like I was like, look, have I missed something? I felt like something like fucked up on my recording or something like that. There was just so many like gaps in it, and there just didn't seem to be any continuity or flow between what they were all saying. And I was thinking, that's a bit strange that you would say that after that person's just said that and things. Like it was just odd. It was just. There wasn't much purpose to it really, and if everyone's saying here that like the full version on YouTube's great, like in the comments here, then just use it then as a social media thing. Yeah, if you're not going to show the full thing on the show, and maybe you should have played the full thing on the show instead of giving Andrade a quarter of an hour. Like, but just point people in the direction of the social media and make them watch it there. And like if it is good, be something that you get a bit of buzz out of there rather than it just looking chopped to shit and just a bit ridiculous. But hey ho. But moving on to that Andrade thing, fuck me, what a clusterfuck that was, wasn't it? Jesus, like I'm still trying to work out who's a face and who's a heel and things like that in it as well, because Chavo Guerrero was like reveling in his pop and like just saying all this like babyface stuff, and I was thinking, hang about, isn't Andrade a heel? And then he was saying, well, incomprehensible stuff, but then heelish stuff like the other way, and then it wasn't quite clear what side of the fence Death Triangle sat on, and I was just left feeling very very confused by the end of this segment, and also thinking like a few months ago when I said about Andrade should just go to New Japan and just I'm starting to think that was maybe the right decision. Just don't put him on AWTV, because there's nothing I've seen so far from him that's making me think that he looks like a star. He's just looking more and more like a comedy character to me with every passing week, and then as he bringing in some genuine stars at the top of the card, he's just I don't know, he's looking like a big miss and a big filler at this point.
So Death Triangle are heels or are they baby faces?
Heels, but
they're heels. Okay.
Well, in essence, they're just like a kind of standalone group, standoffish group. So they're kind of very much tweeners.
Who's the guy in the red pants that came out with them?
Alex Abrahantes.
Abrahantes, who basically translate for Penta.
So he's like their fucking Bill Alfonso. He's like Bill Alfonso's their Sabu and Taz or something.
He's kind of like a hype man. He doesn't blow the whistle, thank God. Like, because that did get annoying after a while.
Well, his voice is kind of like that whistle. It's annoying, I found. So it's it's not so bad. But I would think that maybe they're gonna transition like Death Triangle, like get rid of Pac and then put Andrade in with Penta and Phoenix, which would make more sense. Or you're opening the door if you can work it out with Ring of Honor that you bring in like Rush and Dragon Lee to team with Andrade, which would make a lot of sense. And if you can get some kind of cross-pollination of talent between ROH and AEW, like that would benefit both companies. Maybe you can see that happening. I think basically you kind of hit the peak where you can do things with Rush in ROH anymore, and then moving over to join Andrade and like bring Dragon Lee with him and then form Ingobernables in AEW would be kind of an interesting thing. Maybe
where it gets, I think, gets really complicated is, I mean, Ring of Honor stuff is, and it's funny because we talk about all of these promotions and they're all kind of even interlinked. And Ring of Honor is one where it is just kind of like an island unto itself at the moment. And there doesn't really appear to be much of a relationship with New Japan. That's not something that appears to be kind of spoken about. And that was their kind of calling card for a hell of a long time. But with Andrade, I think at the time, I remember saying I thought he'd go to Ring of Honor and New Japan because I thought AEW was a bit too soon. Maybe, give it a bit of a chance to breathe. Because of the LIJ stuff, it was an easy fit to get him into kind of New Japan. You have the La Sombra stuff. You could, there's a lot of videos you can go back to with that.
But he'll go to New Japan. He'll like, where's my IC title? And then he'll be like, what? You did what with it?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, where is it? He loved it. That was I remember enjoying the match where he beat Nakamura in Marina, Mexico, which is the only other time I think outside of this week where a New Japan title had changed hands on foreign
non-New Japan TV.
Yeah, non-New Japan TV. Yeah, it works out very well, that. But I think there's issues in terms of he's working AAA, so he's wrestling Kenny Omega next month at Triple Mania. This is Andrade. Rush, it seems like he's locked in pretty tight with the Ring of Honor deal. So that would be a thing of making sense for it as well. The impression I got here is that it looked like Phoenix and Penta would be turning, which I'll be frank about it. Phoenix as a heel isn't something I want to see. I think I want to see Phoenix as a babyface luchador. His moveset is pure babyface. It's not something that's there at all. Whereas Penta as a heel, I'm fine with that. I think that could work. I think he's got the better kind of offense for it. But they, again, are kind of spinning their heels, aren't they? Like, again, we find and these are the things we kind of worry about, where there's a lot of this roster and you're thinking for this, well, who's this leading to? And the person who's the de facto heel is the one who's got 3 wrestlers coming out to kind of confront him. It's like there's a lot of stuff here which doesn't work. And it's the overall Andrade presentation. The match he's had has been bad. His ring gear was terrible for that. I think all of the interviews have been bad. The Jim Ross one was the best one. And I don't even think that was that good. I think just by comparison to the others, it was better. This was terrible. I think they lost the audience towards the end because the audience started to get confused. And then there was points where Chavo Guerrero takes, like you say, he took the mic off Andrade and then, but it's like a babyface promo. So it's like none of this makes sense. And it doesn't feel like it's been well thought out. And I'd sooner they just delayed it, let him have his match in AAA and kind of give this stuff a little bit of time, because I think at the moment it's not working. And they've got a record at the moment of turning these things round. It's not entirely impossible, but yeah, I don't know. Am I being?
Nah, this is one where they just need it. This is one where they need a bit of consistency as well with like Death Triangle, because I feel like Death Triangle's kind of shit the bed pretty much since they first done it, and it's just obviously that Pac been in and out of the country, so they were like he wasn't involved. Then they both had injuries, Phoenix and Penta, so there's been like various variations of that. Like it doesn't feel like you actually had the 3 of them as Death Triangle on a consistent basis for like a 4 to 6 week run at any point since they even like first introduced them. So that was one of the things as they were running this segment. I was thinking, I'm not going to do like a turn now or something, are they? When what is the plans here for this? It just, I mean, it almost feels like a natural
Big Show there. Maybe they're getting sort of Big Show vibes of let's turn him.
He's probably there in the back, isn't he? And Tony Khan's here just like saying, this worked for me. But you look at these 4 and you just think the matches that they can have, like between, Andrade against these on a pure in-ring basic, there should be magic there for a few, a few of them. But it can't just be like, hey, go in the ring and have a match, can it? You know, it needs to have some kind of substance behind it, and, you know, have a logical reason, something that's like been built a bit properly behind it, just to give it that extra something. But again, as always, I'll say, like, goodbye, you know, bide a bit of time, give them a bit of leeway where they have turned stuff around. But I tell you what, I'm not the whole Andrade thing. I'm just not feeling at all. I thought, you know, I was the introduction of Chavo Guerrero. You just like, fuck, like, you're just dragging him even further. Like, I can't.
Serena De La Renta from MLW could have got Serena De La Renta in. If you're going to go budget Zelina Vega, that's who you're getting. Apparently, there's
Selena Vega is budget Serena De La Renta.
Yeah. Oh, that's a fair. Yeah, that's a fair shot. I think Serena De La Renta would be a great mouthpiece. Would work perfectly. And she's done effectively the same character, but I don't think that's going to be happening at all. And I think if you add another manager to the mix for him, it would just be kind of disastrous from that.
Who's that other guy? So who's that other guy with the clipboard behind Andrade? Who's like toe to toe?
He's just like an assistant who's been there for the last 2 weeks, and there's no real idea why that is. They're just there, and I'm assuming
someone famous from the Indies or Lucha World or something like that.
I have no fucking idea at all.
I've got no idea.
He's Andrade's like cousin or something. Then he just got a fucking job because of
he's just lucked out. This lad is just there, and he's turning up on television each week, just thinking, I'll stand there in the background. I mean, but there's been no kind of setup or anything. It's like, I'd be fine if he just had a kind of, I don't know, a Virgil type character, obviously without all of the horrific connotations around the Virgil type character. Perfectly.
Allegedly.
And there is the title. They were horrific connotations around Virgil, but it was, you know, if they had someone silent in the background who might just interfere in his matches, I'd kind of prefer that at this point rather than even just like a kind of a mouthpiece. Like it's not working. Something I know you gave it a 3.25, and I'd probably go with you on this. The rating was the main event, which I thought was a lot of fun. Did the best in the 18 to 49. It felt like a way of transitioning Moxley losing the title without getting pinned or submitted. There's a decent use of Lance Archer as well. I predict that Lance Archer is going to end up coming back to New Japan anyway. It leads to, like, you know, a scene at the end of this, their third highest rating of all time, and we're left with Lance Archer versus Hikuleo, which is mental. But I will say, and I don't know if you've seen it, WH, I watched his match with Fred Rosser, the unsung star of New Japan Strong, and that's as good as Hikuleo as I've ever seen. So, and that was a full count anywhere match. But yeah, I enjoyed this. I thought it was, I thought it was kind of good plunder fun. And as a TV main event, it was kind of fine.
Yeah, it's fine. I didn't hate it. But, you know, can I just say about Hikuleo? And like, I remember last Wednesday night being on wrestling Twitter, and people were like fucking going crazy. Oh my God, Hikuleo's on AEW TV. Oh my God, Nick Gage is on AEW. It's like you would have thought fucking Razor Ramon and fucking Diesel showed up in like 1997 and WCW television. It's like, it's fucking Hikuleo. He's a fucking nobody right now. Like, when he actually becomes good, like, okay, he has a good match with Fred Rosser. I'll take your word for it, JP. I trust your opinion.
Hey,
but he's a fucking nobody.
The machine, Fred Rosser. No days off.
He's a fucking nobody. Hikuleo. And Nick Gage is an indie deathmatch guy. Okay?
Oh, I'm saving him. He's the transition into the next bit as well. So.
He's a fucking indie deathmatch guy who does cameos for $25 a pop. That's how like fucking Brandon from New Jersey can afford to send one to John Way. Okay, it's not like he paid $100 for fucking Nick Gage, because Nick Gage doesn't charge that much. Hello, people. A real star would charge. Listen, if I ever did cameo, I don't want to do them, but if I ever did, I would charge $200, because then no one would ever pay it. If I got $200 to do a cameo, I'd be like, all right, $200. I did. Yeah. I would charge $25. Not even I would charge $25 for a fucking cameo. Why is he charging $25? You're underselling yourself, Nick. If you're listening to this, you're probably not, but if you are, you should charge at least $50. That's just my my advice to you.
You get a wrap.
Huh? Sorry.
Contribute to his next rap.
Oh, if he's rapping, mate, we've got fucking problems for that. But yeah, you've mentioned it. We're gonna talk about it in terms of the Chris Jericho Sean Spears. I mean, as a TV opener, that I thought this is the way you should start off the show. The crowd get to sing Judas; they're immediately kind of hot for it. It makes sense. We're going to see this a lot, I think, because it's very much we're playing Mookie Ball at this point. And the thing that he's able to do is just he's thinking about those quarter hours and he's thinking, oh, yeah, this is the way you start it off. And you get that hot kind of pop on there. And I thought the match was actually fine for it. I'm not nearly as down on Sean Spears as everyone else. Someone has to take the pin and he's better than Larry Zbyszko. So, like, I think at those points, it's like I'm kind of fine with what his purpose is. What fucking amazed me was after that, where I think there'd been the assumption that it was the labors of Jericho was him running through the pinnacle. Oh no. MJF starts bringing in someone else. And when he mentions that he legally had died and wanted to come out and have a fight, and then mentioned that he robbed a bank with a mask, without a mask, and out came your two favorite wrestler, and certainly both of you wrestler for 2021. Nick Gage appeared on national television, and very wisely, they didn't put the camera on his lips so people could lip read, because I think that would have been the first issue with standards and practices, if that's still a thing at Turner. What did you guys make of this entire segment? Because I'll have to admit, I fucking loved it.
Okay.
Go on, WH. I'll give you the floor. You're the guest.
So while I'm watching this unfold on Twitter, not actually on television, I thought that, this is interesting. Wow, Nick Gage is on national television. I never thought I'd see the day. It's like like Necro Butcher showing up on fucking Ring of Honor, or Mick Foley finally as Mankind showing up on WWF television. I'm like, never thought that would happen. But okay, here he is. And like, I thought this is going to be interesting if it's a long-term thing. It doesn't seem like it might be. It might just like he's being on loan from GCW and whatever, right? So that's a good thing. And he's wearing the GCW t-shirt. That's good for them. Great. Like if it brings people to like go see their shows, that's good for them, boost their business. But KG's title as well. KG is still a shit commentator. Don't watch it for that fucking guy's commentary. He's fucking shit. Anyways, I thought that was interesting. Then I watched it and I thought, okay, yeah, this is interesting thing. Like if MJF is the conduit to bring indie people into this company, and I guess like the best thing you can do with Gage is have him fight Chris Jericho or the Painmaker, which is by far the worst gimmick of Chris Jericho's career, and by far one of the worst fucking wrestler personas of the last 20 years in any company of any wrestler is the Painmaker. What is that? It's like some stupid Jack Nicholson Crow, kind of mashup with the fucking fedora. Like, what's with the fedora? Why are you wearing a fucking fedora? Like, that's what I want to know. And by the way, Sean Spears, he does not wear like the kind of haircut that Gareth has, as well as Gareth does. He looks like a healthier Perry Saturn. Let me just say that. That's what he looks like. Okay. And it doesn't look good. But
thank you.
But like I have no interest in Chris Jericho anymore. Like there's a point where they had Chris Jericho's stats which they do in AEW, right? On the TV. And it said something about prime. And I said, did it just say he's past his prime? Because that's what I was thinking. Yeah, Chris Jericho is definitely past his prime. Like if I never see another Chris Jericho match, I'll be happy. If I never see him in New Japan again, I'll be even happier because like he shit the bed. He only had one good match in that company. Everything else I thought was shit. And Painmaker was the worst. It was the absolute dog shit worst. Fuck Chris Jericho, you fucking insurrectionist. Allegedly. and your reflexes like a pregnant walrus matches these days, and like I have no interest in that. But yeah, you know what, Nick Gage in AEW, interesting. Whether it's more than the one shot, that'll be interesting to see, right? And then whether he can actually transition to being a television wrestler, like, and I mean like not saying fuck all the time, like that would be even more interesting in my opinion.
I don't know about that. I think I look at him and for me, it's like, the Happy Mondays, WH.
Yeah.
It's like putting Shaun Ryder on live national television before the watershed. You can do it and you can ask him not to swear, but he's gonna turn up on TFI Fridays with his bloody hair bleached blonde, yelling "fuck" like into a microphone at 6:30 on a Friday evening. That's the problem here. I don't see any way he goes down walking that ramp and saying the word fricking. I just don't see it happening. Like I don't know. Gareth.
What's like seriously, like what's the value in him beyond this one like deal? If you say they're like, oh, you can't have Nick Gage come out and say like fucking until they can't like lip syncing and things like that. Okay, well there's one of his redeeming features gone. This man can swear. That's one of the things he can do is swear, and then he's not allowed to do that. So there you go. We've taken that away. Also, what we've got him in an arena with like 20,000 people full of like proper wrestlers, people who look like wrestlers, people who are in front of crowds who are used to seeing professional wrestlers perform. You've got a guy here who's used to turning up in front of fucking 150 people in the pissing Showboat Hotel in New Jersey and just like,
Gareth, he did his best attendance since New Orleans and Joey Jones.
What did he do? 160? 170?
I think it was certainly about like 1,500, I think, or something along those.
Bullshit, there was 1,500 in that room. That fucking room. No way does that room hold 1,500. Fuck off.
Somebody in the chat tell us, please.
What did Progress do at Wembley? 4,000. You're telling me that there was nearly half as many people in that room as there was at Wembley Arena? What's their fuck? There was fucking a couple of hundred, easy, like no problem. But anyway, so I watched this unspoiled. Obviously, like Benno, you know me. I go like black on Twitter when I'm watching, Dynamite. I don't want any spoilers. Benno's there messaging me saying, "Watch Dynamite." So then, like, I was like, oh, I haven't got time to watch it. So he was like, just watch the start. And I'm thinking, fuck, Punk showed up or something like that. Like, and then I watch this and bloody, it comes out and then MJF starts to do his spiel. And then you're like, oh my God, it's fucking Nick Gage. I can't believe it. And then out he comes looking like I say, in this arena, in this setting, in this professional wrestling setting, he couldn't have looked more shit and more shit indie if he'd tried. Like walking out there, and like MJF is a small wrestler, and like Nick Gage walks out and he looks smaller than him. I was just thinking, what is he going to look like in the ring next to Chris Jericho? Who, like, Jericho used to appear to be a small wrestler, but when he's in there in the ring with half of these AEW like lads, Jericho looks like a fucking giant compared to them, especially with his growth over the years outward. So Nick Gage is going to look absolutely...
Which is one of the funny MJF lines from like when he opened it up, didn't he? And he'd said about Chris Jericho being pregnant or something like that.
He was echoing my sentiments, what I was thinking at the time.
Very true.
A pregnant walrus, though. A pregnant
I was going to say that's closer, but he's like stood there. He's got arms like me. Like he can't fucking wrestle a lick. He's got what? He's got a bloody pizza cutter. He'd be better off working in fucking Pizza Hut. Like, as far as I'm concerned, I think that's more suited for the man's career than turning up on AEW Dynamite every week. And like I was saying this the weekend. Can you remember when like Warhorse turned up on AEW? That's what he looked like to me. He just looked like a guy who you like get on your TV and you go like, yeah, actually, when you take him out of this tiny little setting where he's over like fucking amongst these, people who follow GCW and follow that whole like Nick Gage cult kind of thing that goes with it. Put him in a normal world. Put him in the real world with real people. He ain't fucking even the pop here with this build up. He had a little pocket of a pop, but it wasn't fucking big news in the arena that Nick Gage was coming out at all. And I think it's very much going to be one and done for my boy, and he can get back to.
You know who Nick Gage looks like? He looks like he's a fucking Spider Nate Webb cosplayer, which is saying something.
He does look, This is brutal, lads.
And then he like. Is he actually a good promo? Because all I hear is the same things out of his mouth. It's a motherfucking MDK all day long. It's like, okay, can you actually say something creative or beyond like, big ups to Nate Hatred and fucking Justice Pain? Rest in peace, lads. But it's like, do you know anything? Can you say anything beyond like I'm gonna kill you and I'm MDK all day? Like, his cameos, he probably like only charges $25 because it's the same fucking thing he says to everyone, except he just forgets the vowels for different people's names. You know, that's all, right? No G, no E in Gareth, and no I in Way. It's like, you know, someone put it in the chat here. It's like he doesn't know how to read vowels, and I can't believe that's true. He's vowel illiterate, which is saying something. You can only see consonants, otherwise you're just fucking like what's the thing I'm thinking about where you can't read things? Like you read things sideways.
Oh, I can't.
Begins with an A.
I know what you mean. Yeah,
that's what he has with vowels. He can't read vowels; they're invisible to him. Only consonants.
he only deals in consonants. He'd be shit on Countdown, which I don't know if you've ever seen.
So maybe he can he can read E's, so he can say Benno's name right. But
I've got an image of. I don't know if you've ever seen it. WH Countdown, but I've now got an image of Nick Gage on Countdown, where it's like, and Nick, what word are you, how many letters in your word? 4. What word have you gone with? Kelsa Parise. Fuck. And then he just like, and he spelt that wrong because he's put a V in instead of the U. Because like you said,
so next time he does a promo on Chris Jericho, maybe he's going to call him Chris Jerko.
I'm gonna stand up for Nick Gage, in terms of there is a charisma around him. I know. I'm looking at two people, and it's just who are looking at me, going like, "Is there any charisma?" It's very weird, and it's a very small little bit of evidence for it. But I remember when I was watching the match, my youngest son, who likes Metallica, was like, "Oh, For Whom the Bell Tolls," and like kind of looked at him, and he was like, "Who is this guy?" And then I was explaining about his backstory, and it was just like, "Okay, this is kind of wild, and it is different and unpredictable." And I suppose the idea of bringing in Nick Gage just adds to the kind of general sense of organized chaos. And it just sort of threw things in a slightly different direction, which means are we going to get Lance Storm coming out or something along those lines?
Based on this, quite clearly, Chris Jericho, who narrated that episode of Dark Side of the Ring, thought, "Oh, I can be the one who gets Nick Gage on mainstream TV, and I can, it can be another thing that I can add to my." Thing of, oh, Chris Jericho did this. So I, for one, am looking forward to the challenge from Grizzly Smith next week.
In the chat, someone said, what? Moondog Spot making a comeback. If he's going to go that way, just like with wrestling criminals and stuff like that, you could go down the Jeff Gaylord route, because like apparently he's a terrible bastard of a man, if you can remember him from the old Memphis days. Good, like him and Eric Embry. The heroes we should have had. Rian in the chat says maybe bring in Chris Hero next for it. Probably feels like it's like, John Moxley as well. There's the links with that. The fact he's lost the GCW title, and now that kind of means it's already kind of predetermined how he can lose. I think the thing that I'm intrigued by is, are we going to be seeing gimmicked pizza cutters and things like of that nature? Is it going down that route? Because if so, you want to leave that shit as close to 10 o'clock as you're going to get away with, because I've, putting Gage on live in a main event of a televised Dynamite, like that's a ballsy move, if nothing else. That's what I would say, guys. Could go horribly wrong. Yeah. And talking of which, this is going to get even more fun.
Sorry, JP, one more thing. You talked about people singing. What, Judas in My Mind? That's the name of Chris Jericho's entrance name, right? Judas in My Mind?
Yes.
Okay. One, if I was ever caught at an AEW show, you would never see me lip syncing to the song. First of all, it's fucking terrible. Okay. 2, if I did, I would never want to be caught on television, because every time they cut to the audience members singing the song, I thought, you people are all fucking stupid. You all look horrible. Like, you probably can't do karaoke very well. I can, by the way. Just so you know, if we're ever in Japan,
you're quite the karaoke expert. There was some karaoke going on at the wedding, which, by the way, for those of you wondering why we're not talking about the wedding this week, I said it earlier in the pre-show. We'll wait until Benno's back on, and then we can go into the wedding in detail, because he was there as well, obviously. But it was a bloody good time. Sorry, WH.
No. But like, I just thought everyone singing this song looked like a fucking idiot, and I just like like anytime if I ever watch AW Dynamite again or any AW programming and Chris Jericho comes out in his entrance, I'm just gonna skip it. I'm just gonna I don't want to see the audience members singing this stupid fucking song. And just one more thing, you mentioned Happy Mondays. Stone Roses, greater than Happy Mondays.
I'd say, well, that first album of the Stone Roses, yeah. The second one, outside, I think, of Begging You, like I've got kind of some issues with.
Bit of Love Spreads.
Love Spreads.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a cracking.
But that first album by the Stone Roses is
yeah.
I think it's better than Oasis's debut album. Yeah.
Well,
I've had better shits than Oasis's albums.
Are you
come on
aware?
now.
Are you? I mean, it was something that I've put in our chat before, and I'd mentioned about there was a venue, a gig going on where it was. I'm trying to find the picture on here that I think I sent you guys. Yeah, there it is. Spike Island, The Resurrection, headlined by the Clone Roses, with OS-is, Happy Mondays with a Z, The Smiths Limited, The James Experience, True Order. How do you feel about that? Like,
So I mean, all Manchester bands that are like cover versions of.
It's all cover versions of those. It's all cover versions of like Manchester bands. So I don't know how you feel about that. It could be a laugh. I've been to see a Smiths tribute gig before. I thought, well, I'm never going to see a Smiths gig, am I? Because they're not going to fucking reform. And then, yeah, I thought it was good. The Morrissey seemed very happy. The guy who plays Johnny Marr, as usual, is left with a fucking impossible task.
The best Morrissey tribute guy is actually a dude from Mexico. He's the best cover version of Morrissey you'll ever see. Check him out on YouTube. Like, the guy sounds like him.
Will do.
Yeah.
But it's always feel sorry for the poor bastard has to be Johnny Marr. It's like, here you go and impersonate one of the great guitarists of all time.
Johnny Marr is such a great guitarist.
I'm going to wave around some gladioli and just brill cream my hair up, really, and do a kind of passable Morrissey.
Johnny Marr can't even replicate his own work, you know? That's how great he is. He can't replicate live some of his own like guitar chords, like How Soon Is Now. Like he has trouble recreating that live because it's so brilliant. He doesn't remember how he created it. So
yeah, but
I did see a good Slipknot tribute in a park when I was half cut in Manchester. It was about like 4:00 in the afternoon. There was a Slipknot tribute band and
just lads in masks.
Lads in masks. So it was like I was about 8 beers deep.
Robbery, mate.
I was going to say I was about 8 beers deep at that point as well as they were performing. So it was like it was just the real thing basically. It just sounded as shit, and it was just these lads in masks as well. So it was it felt like you got the real deal for
Mate.
Love a bit of Festwich. There you go.
Oh,
big shout out to Festwich.
I'm game for all of that stuff now, especially in a post-pandemic world. Outside tribute gigs, yeah, I'm down with that. I can easily get on board with that, and especially getting pissed up in the park, I can easily get on board with that as well.
Only if Martin Bushby joins us. I'll come over.
Yeah.
Martin Bushby joins us.
I will say I'd be remiss, WH, to have you on here and not bring up the subject of Kenny Omega.
Okay.
One of the things we haven't mentioned at all is obviously they had the and admittedly it was an awful match. Seeing Luke Gallows having to do a singles match, but the whole Frankie Kazarian thing was just fucking weird anyway, the way they've been building it up. But then afterwards, you had the post-match beatdown. You had Adam Page and the Dark Order coming out. What do you make of this storyline? Someone who's not following it week to week.
Based on that one segment.
Based on that one segment, what do you make of it?
So I'm wondering why the babyface is an alcoholic, for one thing, and he brings out why can't he leave his drink in the back? So he's walking towards the ring to save his friend here, which is not something a babyface does. Babyfaces run to the ring to clear out the heels and taking them on by himself. But this is very WWE-ish, you know what I mean? This is something that people don't talk about. AEW is like there are a lot of things that they are influenced by WB because like that's just Vince's brainwashing of wrestling fans has been going on for the last 30 years. So like Tony can't help himself, the Young Bucks can't help themselves, but like be influenced by WB tropisms like babyfaces walking to the ring with their fucking gimmick drink. Why would you do that? That doesn't make any sense. But just Hangman versus Kenny, sure. I mean, there's the built-in story. They were tag partners, right? And they had that whole being the elite backstory. That it was a big storyline for them. And like Hangman's someone you got to push. He has to because he's like your homegrown, right? Like he's your first homegrown guy that's not associated with AEW, with WB. you know, like, or anywhere else really for that matter. Like he's so important to that company. So I don't know about like, you know, this whole Bullet Club stuff happening in AEW. They don't call it the Bullet Club. They're the Elite. I don't know, like, it's kind of diluted the name, hasn't it? But like, yeah, I guess
it does when you get Luke Gallows involved.
Listen, you talk fuck Nick Gage robbing a bank. Luke Gallows has been robbing banks from like fucking promotions since for the last 20 fucking years. Okay, New Japan, WWE, now Impact, and maybe AEW.
I think Benno tells a story of seeing Luke Gallows have his son put on a lucha mask and like run around to where the other kids were in the crowd. So those kids then wanted a lucha mask, and they would sell a few off the back of that, using his kid as a plant to sell merch, which is the most Luke Gallows thing you could kind of imagine, frankly. I mean, it's below a Kevin Nash, which is ultimately always where he comes across as, really. Is very much pound shop Kevin Nash when it comes to the old shoots and the rest of it. I mean, I have to say, and the chat is respectfully disagreeing with you, kind of. Well, it's saying in terms of the drink stuff, there is a thing that they've been kind of playing off for quite a long time, where it's part of his character, if that makes, but not in a way that's kind of very obvious. He's always having a drink. It's about this kind of being nervous. Why are you laughing, Gary?
I'm laughing at the Gallows zipping up his top as he's getting punched. I noticed that. It was just like it was.
It was awful when he went down on the ground for a headlock. I went, "Oh Jesus fucking Christ, here we go." But yeah, one of the things, that I would have to say, I mean, I think this as a story, my fear at the moment is this gonna, like, the one thing I don't want to have happen, I suppose, is just that Hangman Page's big match at All Out gets overshadowed by a CM Punk or something like that coming out afterwards. Because if that hasn't already happened by that point on the night, is it going to be a case where people are going to be thinking about that kind of stuff during the main event? So that's like the only kind of fear. And I also think he's going to be losing that match at All Out as well. I mean, it's going to be interesting with this 5-on-5 next week and the elimination match. I mean, I think that's going to be that is this week, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah,
I think so. You get bloody confused because they announce matches all of the time. They've announced.
I was going to say they tell you 3 weeks worth of matches, don't they? And I'm less like, well, it's coming at some point.
I would like them not to tag all their shows as well with a name. I think for a few weeks, just call it Dynamite and just stick with that. Don't add Fighter Fest and all the rest of it. Moving on, we've mentioned him already, Nick Gage. If there was an event this weekend, and I think the power of this is that this overshadowed, I think, in some ways, a Tokyo Dome card from New Japan. And to say it was overshadowed by Nick Gage versus Matt Cardona in a what could really only be described as a kind of heated atmosphere for it. There's two things I kind of want to discuss about it. There's the match, and then there's the kind of post-match stuff with it. I know, where do we start with this? And I think we already know what you're going to say. Gareth, I'll go to you first. What did you make of this?
What, of the match as a whole?
The match and the post-match.
I mean, you know what I'm going to think of the match. You know, I thought, not my cup of tea at all. Like, okay, as much as I'll have a go at Nick Gage and things like that. Yeah, I accept. I appreciate that there's this, segment of wrestling fans that this is like, their thing, and clearly for people who enjoy that sort of thing, that is the one who's, for whatever the reason, the most over at doing that. I watch a match like this and I'm just like, this is just fucking dull. I'm just like, there's nothing here to hold. Great guy gets pizza cutter again and rubs it back and forward on someone's forehead. Great, okay, like, kind of thing. To me, that's like me watching like Dino Bravo sticking a side headlock on somebody for 20 minutes in the 80s or something like that. It's just like, back
got
to
Canadian in the chat here. Come on.
Oh, sorry. Well, yeah.
But
sorry.
I'm not in the mafia.
By the way, have you got any cigarettes?
I was going to say, Don't take any ciggies off him. He'll be all right. But I mean, it was to me. I'm watching it, and it's like, I'll go and watch TNT in Liverpool, and there's death matches on there. There was a deathmatch main event at the show that was like whatever 2 weeks ago or a month ago or something like that, and it's essentially just the same. It's just like any person standing there, smashing a light tube on somebody's head, somebody smashing a light tube on somebody's head again, somebody like dragging this, this pizza cutter back and forward, and like just like great. And it's just to me, it just feels like there's zero substance to it at all. It's just like, not for me, clearly. On that basis, like Matt Cardona's there, pissing blood all over the place and like looking in a bad way, and like, I get zero enjoyment out of that. like either. I'm not like
his arm
it's not
state, especially off that superplex spot. That was just
it's not from a squeamish point of view. It's just like so what kind of thing. Like it doesn't make any impact on me at all. It's just like big deal kind of thing. It's yet again and again and again. Another month goes by and someone's pissing blood from having a light tube or a pane of glass like hit them slightly in the wrong way. Like, okay, where's the art in this? Where's the talent in this? There is none. None at all. And then like the angle at the end of the match, obviously with the 440 coming in, like. To me, that just like made things even worse. I just thought that was just looked like utter dog shit the way that was delivered. It just, again, it just sort of slowed everything down from where it was. It just seemed just a bit odd in the way it delivered. I know I haven't been following that RSP storyline and things, so I get that somebody's going to get a kick out of that if they've been watching this feud and thinking they were together and then seeing that.
I'm thinking of Benno specifically here.
Yeah. I'm sure Benno was punching the air and reaching for his toolbox or something like that to go mad at that point. But not for me. However, saying that, so I was giving this match a 2-star based on that, like because it was just the shits. Like that was a conservative 2-star as well for the fact that the crowd did seem to be into it. Saying that, then when the result happened and then the crowd went fucking berserk and started throwing everything in the ring at the end. I loved that. I loved the raw emotion of that. The fact that they'd worked the crowd to that extent that they were so pissed off and so mad that this guy had come into their shitty little social club and walked away with the title and WWE guy and all that. And then so I nudged it up to 2.5 on the basis of that. And that I know people were talking about the the danger of it and things get thrown in the ring and things like that. And for me, it's like, come on, we've just been watching people twatting each other with light tubes and panes of glass and, etc. There's blood all over the place. Like, is that bottle of Mountain Dew really going to make a big deal? Kind of thing that's flying into the ring there. That was the most impressive thing. Part of it for me was that level of emotion and engagement that we had, that you had there at the end. That people were that angry and that invested in the match and that into it. That they got an extra 0.5 star out of me for the element at the end. But I mean, as an overall thing, it's just like, okay, in this little bubble, great, yay! Like, what a good little thing. But the reality is like, I'd love to see the fight numbers. That's all I'll say. I wonder how many tens of thousands of those they sold.
WH? Is there anything?
There's not much I can add to the match itself in terms of what Gareth said. Like I'm not. It's not my genre. I'm one of these people. I'm maybe Shane from Global Force Wrestling is going to be a guest, but deathmatch wrestling is not wrestling to me. If people think of it as wrestling, that's fine. I know there's that argument. It is wrestling. It's not wrestling. I'm on the camp that says it's not wrestling because the wrestling I like doesn't involve weapons. I'm not a fan of plunder in general in wrestling, and I think plunder.
Not even New Jack back in the day.
Oh, fuck, I hate New Jack. He's terrible. Anyways, not
a good human either, really, is he? Bless him. I'm sorry he's dead. That's awful. Shouldn't be saying that.
Sorry, I'm trying to get my train of thought. So, Plunder should be the culmination of a months-long feud. It shouldn't be the beginning point. Do these two guys hate each other? No. Why are they going to hit each other with light tubes? Because there's something wrong up here, like in the way their brain works. There's some chemicals missing that aren't flowing correctly up there, so that's why they're doing that. Okay, so. But that being said, have I seen death matches live? Yes, I've been to Big Japan shows in Japan. And I've been to several Big Japan shows, mainly for the strong division, not for the death match division. But have I seen death matches that I've enjoyed from Big Japan? Yes, I have, because the wrestlers involved are actually good wrestlers who happen to do death matches, not people who do death matches that pretend they're wrestlers, which is what Nick Gage is. He's not a real wrestler. He's a death match guy who pretends he's a wrestler, and he does death matches because he can't actually wrestle. Whereas someone like Masashi Takeda is actually a good wrestler who does death matches. Sami Kodaka is a good wrestler because I've seen them have good wrestling matches without Plunder, but they happen to love doing death matches, and they get paid very well to do it in Japanese wrestling. So, like Ricky Shane Page, is he actually a good wrestler? I doubt it. Are any of these guys in 4-4 OH, where the fuck this dorky fucking MAGA club is called, good wrestlers? Probably not. I don't know. They probably got some charisma to them. I think this Atticus Cougar, he seems like he's got some charisma. Is he actually a good wrestler? I have no idea. I've never seen any of his matches, so I can't roughly say. Ricky Shane
I've read
Page,
his name out a ton on the weekend show, but I never get around to watching his wrestling matches.
But like Ricky Shane Page, I've never seen him have a good match. Like I don't think he's a good wrestler. And Nick Gage, let's be honest, like he's a charismatic guy, but people draw into that for some strange reason. But is he actually a good wrestler? If you're really honest with yourself, you could be the biggest Nick Gage fan in the world. You tell me with a straight face, he's as good as Bryan Danielson. I will say you need to get your eyes checked. I'm sorry you have that opinion, but you need to get your eyes checked, and you need to start watching some proper fucking wrestling if you have that opinion. Okay, the match itself, whatever, it is what it is. Like I'll never watch it again. Like Matt Cardona, I think the novelty, and it's fucking novelty. It's like, oh, it's Woo Woo guy. He's gonna fucking do some fucking light tube spots and get cut open by Nick Gage. That's the only reason anyone cared, because it's a WWE guy. It's fucking Long Island Ice Z, where the fuck his nickname was on his YouTube show. He's the guy, and like the commentary is constantly going on about his action figure fetish. He's like action figures, like action figures. Like, okay, I'm sure each and every one of you who is on that fucking commentary, Schlack. Okay, sorry, he's not a fucking neo-Nazi, allegedly. Like, so you got to make fun of his fucking action figure hobby. At least he's not like putting down people of color. You fuck. Anyways, you know what I mean? Like, so, like these fucking guys, and it's sad to hear Dave Prazak because he's a great commentator, but he has to stuck with these fucking idiots that are on commentary with him. Like, GCW as a whole as a television product is almost unbearable just from the commentary alone. Like there can be good wrestlers on there, they can have good matches, but the commentary alone is shit because they're all fucking gotten to little fucking thin-skinned dickheads because they're like, oh, well, this fuck you person at this wrestling website who
do that loads, don't they?
Dude,
and we're going to talk about it. They did it with Dave Meltzer during this. He was the de facto heel for the second show.
And if you feel that way, don't do commentary anymore. If you can't take the fucking heat, get out of the fucking kitchen. You know what I mean? You just ignore people. That's what I do. I ignore people who don't like what I have to say. You don't have to like it. I don't have to listen to you either. But as far as the angle goes, the throwing of all the bottles and shit like that, like for one thing, like I look at that and I think, would I do that? No, because I respect the performers in the ring. But I understand the people who enjoyed it, who like. That's raw emotion. That's actual genuine heat. Okay, I can appreciate it on that level. Would I do it? Never. I would never throw anything into the ring because I respect the people who put their bodies on the line already to throw anything at them. Like I do think that's disrespectful. Do I think Dave Meltzer went like a little overboard? Like to me, it was surprising to see Dave's comments because like, dude, you covered ECW, you covered fucking Memphis.
I was gonna say
Florida. Like Eddie Graham, Florida, like fucking Jerry Lawler, Memphis. Like you must
Puerto Rico,
like Carlos Colon's Puerto Rico, where people are being like, and he would write about this stuff, like not condoning it, like these kinds of like, oh, they try to murder people in the crowds, like or they try to kill like fucking Ezekiel Jack, Zebekiah, what fucking Jake Hager's fucking manager in WWE, right?
Dutch Mantel.
Dutch Mantel. They used to try to murder Dutch Mantel. Like he wouldn't say it like it was great, but like the tone you get is like he thinks that was when pro wrestling was was great. Like you get that genuine heat, but then he's condemning this behavior. But if I saw like a ton of cans being thrown there, I'd be like, that's fucked up. But like WCW,
there were reports of that, weren't there?
Yeah, I saw some cans, but like most of them were like, like bottles and stuff, right? But
there was pizza cutters that people threw in the ring.
Well, fuck them. Fuck those people. You're these kinds of fans like that are at GCW shows. Like, I don't know if I'd want to go and be among them because like I think they're too invested in trying to be part of the show and not enjoy the show. And I'm a fan who wants to enjoy the show. I don't want to be part of the show. I don't make stupid chants at shows trying to get myself over at the expense of what's happening in the ring. And I hate fans like that, right? That's why going to Japan, you don't get fans like that unless they're from outside of Japan, right? But
that one Israeli bloke.
Oh, don't get me started on that guy. Anyway,
don't come to Tuesday night graps with me.
I better not go to see any shows with the Ogdens, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
No, their chants work, and I would say in the case of like they're not really ever about they do work.
But like Dave covered WCW Nitro where the MWO were getting pelted with shit from the fucking WCW audience. So I don't know why. And I think they threw more stuff. Like there's that great one where like something's coming. It's a plastic cup full of beverage or something, and fucking Kevin Nash is boom. I'm like, what a champ that guy is for getting that one. But it's heat. Like if Cardona doesn't care, okay. I felt worse for the referee in that ring than I did for Cardona, to be honest with you. But would I do it? That's I think the thing is, would I ever throw anything in the ring? Never.
Yeah, I think it's going to be look, the way that they seem to be going on this is they're kind of doubling down on it, which if you're dealing around the margins of wrestling and you're not dealing with a lot of money and you find yourself in an angle like this where it's generated the heat, and I'll stick up for kind of a few bits of this. I thought the match itself, I agree with the novelty value, but there was a novelty value to watching Zack Ryder in this environment. And he'd done some very kind of good, nice little bits of heel work in the build-up, like describing them as the GCW universe and things like that, which is a good touch. And he's quite funny. I think because the precedent is there from kind of the NWO, in terms of if you're really disgusted by an angle, you throw in the kind of plastic cups and the bits of rubbish. And because that became a kind of staple of Nitro, there is that element of where it's like, well, it's almost like it's an accepted part of it. And then when we talk about ECW, what did they use on their TV opening? All the chairs being thrown into the ring and one of them hitting Terry Funk on the back of the head as he collapses to the floor. And, it's all part of the reverence of it. The problem lies is that it's a dangerous game when you start going, you can throw stuff in the ring because it only takes one person and that's it. And I think that's the issue in terms of the kind of level of heat. Everyone involved, I'd imagine, is fucking delighted with the overall response. The fact that Meltzer had tweeted that and spoken about it, the fact that the next night the Mark Sterling character, and this is where it gets weird, who's in AEW as Jade Cargill's manager, but here is Matt Cardona's agent or something, he got pelted with rubbish when he said he agreed with Dave Meltzer and he was going to sue all of the fans. So this is something they're going to be doubling down on. My fear is these don't seem like people who are going to go, do you know what? We should just agree to throw like toilet paper like it's Jimmy Rave in Ring of Honor or something like that. They're going to be throwing fucking ridiculous things. They're going to behave like...
Chairs are next. That's like normal.
Oh, chairs.
Next level.
Chairs are next. They remind me of, I think there were some people who managed to sneak a Vespa into a Serie A game in Italy at football once, and they threw it into the away fans at the San Siro. Like, that kind of stuff is, you think, it's not beyond the realms of possibility they start throwing big stuff in there. And there was like reports of kind of loaded cans, but initially then it was all kick-started by apparently some plants in the front row. It's a wrestling angle. Will it lead to anything else? They're doing war games off the back of this. Matt Cardona as GCW champion. Is he going to be doing lots of death matches? Probably not. It'll work out for them, but I worry about like that these aren't the kind of fans who are going to kind of get, oh yeah, this is this throwing the stuff in. I've just got a bad feeling they'll start lobbing like full cans of Coke or beer at his head. Because if I'd done that at Rev Pro and I'd like thrown in an empty can of beer, I'm expecting to get dragged out and possibly getting a few punches into the belly as I'm being thrown out of the place as well. So, but here that's what they're selling it on. They're selling it on that kind of an anarchic attitude. And because we don't see stuff that generates that kind of heat, you know, it's kind of worked. And
unless you're at an ROH show with Joe Lemon.
That's right. He originally kickstarted it against Brian Danielson, who was fucking livid about that as well. And he was just like, I love him, and I can never tell him that it was me who did this. And he'd see him and take photos with him afterwards. And it's like, yeah, getting it back in. But yeah, I don't know. I suppose in some ways I'm kind of like the person who needs to talk about all of this stuff isn't here this week in Benno. I think in terms of the heat and everything else, it's generated like a real sense of buzz. And this might be the kind of, in its own weird little way, and this from he won Money in the Bank at WrestleMania, but that doesn't seem to mean shit compared to this, where this is something I think for Matt Cardona, if he's doing this anti-indie WWE guy, like that's the character for him. It's the character he should be playing possibly an Impact and everything else, but that's, they're like ripping off WWE even more than AEW, so there you go. Sorry, big old rant there. Talked fucking loads. New Japan. We had there it is. Unless you guys got anything else to add, did you watch anything else from GCW? I didn't see Drew Parker. Apparently it's better death match against Alex Colon, but
I tried. I thought I tried to watch all of it, but I thought I don't have time.
No.
I'm kind of interested in some of the other matches. Like, I'll say this about Drew Parker. Like, kudos to that guy. He came over from England to do a spot for Big Japan, and it turned into like a year plus now he's been there, and like I think
nearly 2.
His Japanese has gotten really good. Like he can appear on television shows like Battleman. It's a TV show like on Samurai TV, and he can talk about like his promoting whatever match or show he's going to be on without a translator, like in Japanese, because he can cut promos in Japanese. It's really impressive. Like, and like to me tells me that he's invested in this company in Big Japan, and he's invested in being in the country, and like he cares about the culture, which I appreciate someone who's lived there as well, right? And I had seen him like I'd been to Big Japan shows that he was at. It was one show in Yokohama, and he was going around. Like a lot of the thing about Big Japan wrestlers is that they try to create this community sense with the fans, not like what I hear kind of like you guys talk about, like the fan culture and the t-shirt selling culture of like British Brit-Res to the fans here. It's like very different in Japan. And Drew Parker really made a point of like trying to be friendly to all the fans in the hallways before the shows and stuff like that, and like in a positive manner, not in a Brit-Res kind of a way. But I thought, good for him. I'm not a fan of his work or anything like that, because it's not my genre of wrestling that I enjoy watching. But I am a fan of like seeing the effort from him, and like good for him. Like he put the work in to become. He changed his gear. Thank God. He doesn't look like he's like a skateboarder kid anymore.
Yeah, I thought that's a notable thing on there, and he's bet on himself, which you never see enough Western wrestlers do. It's like kind of a Gabriel Kidd. You look at someone like that and go, you really just like, you're betting on yourself here that you're going to be able to succeed, and you're taking yourself so far out of your comfort zone that you're able to do it. I mean, Chris in the chat, Chris Linnae, one of the hosts of Graps and Claps, he's more into his death matches than I am, and he said that's a match that's possibly worth going back and watching. But also he was wrestling for Big Japan the day before, which is wild.
Yeah,
he got to work in the States. Like that's an insane trip, but
maybe 14 hours on a plane, and then he went straight to the venue apparently. So you get respect, like the effort that Drew Parker has made to bet on himself. Like, I don't think it's necessarily worked out as well for Gabriel Kidd right now, or even like Chris Brooks and DDT. But Drew Parker, like, it's like, like kudos to the guy. Like, I hope continued success for him. I've probably never watched really any of his matches on a regular basis, but hey, kudos to him for really investing in Japan and on himself. So there you go.
Yeah, the learning the language is always the big sign. And again, I'm always coming back to footballers, and British footballers historically would go to play in Italy and Spain. And would they learn the language? Would they fuck? There's zero interest in that. Not like
What did Ian Rush say? It was when he played for Juventus in Italy. It was like living in a foreign country.
Is what he said.
Yes, Ian.
He's the kind of bloke where when he goes there, he wants to find me an English pub. Are they showing only fools and horses? And did they sell fry-ups? You know, that's the kind of lad he is. And Drew Parker isn't like that at all. But you know, speaking of Japan, there's a good link there. This weekend, it's amazing. It's this far kind of down in the list, but we had a New Japan show at the Tokyo Dome in July, which is odd in and of itself. Yeah, I don't know. Do you know what? I'll be honest with you. I don't know how I feel about this card, because in some ways there's large swathes of this show that made me quite cross. One particular match where I managed to get quite a lot of housework done in that time, whereas like it just doesn't need to go this length at all. But on the other hand, we had a main event that I thought was really good and really good fun. 4.25 on the app, and thought it was like a kind of really, considering the circumstances and considering that Tanahashi had already wrestled 25 minutes the night before at his age with his back and his knees. When in doubt, you know, you don't have Kota Ibushi, and you know, we talk about all the other people who are missing from this card. He's not there. Ospreay's not there. Jay White's not there. You can't bring a Moxley or a Chris Jericho into the company at all. Instead, they put Hiroshi Tanahashi in there, and I thought, yeah, this was a really, really good, fun, big main event match wrestled by two guys who know how to wrestle main events. WH, your thoughts?
On the show overall, I just thought this is such a pointless show. Like, I look at all the empty spaces in Tokyo Dome, and I thought, why? Well, they need money. So they sold like over 5,000 tickets, right? Over 5, less than 6. And hopefully they made some profit off of it. But it's like, it's another show in a string of so many shows that they don't need to be doing, except they're desperate. But you're burning out all your wrestlers. You're burning out all your angles. You're not going to have anything for the Tokyo Dome. Like, I have no idea. Like, they have these ideas that they're mentioning in commentary, in the English commentary, of like, oh, Tetsuya Naito wants to be the champion again. He wants to be in the main event again. So like, I'm thinking, oh, okay. So my theory is that, okay, Okada is going to be the next challenger after Evil. I don't think Shingo's losing the title to Evil. Fuck. Can you imagine that happening? I would like. And Chase
Not
Owens
beyond the realms of fucking possibility with these lads, though, is it?
And Chase Owens being the G1, I'll just fucking give up on New Japan in general. Then that happens. But then Okada is maybe going to be the next challenger. Though I would save Okada for, you know, like the Tokyo Dome, like to do the rematch there with Shingo. But if he challenges again, okay, Shingo beats him maybe. But they might be going back to Okada Naito for the Tokyo Dome again, which I'd be like, you made money off that, I guess the first time, first 2 times. Okay, you think you can make money off of that again? I have no interest in seeing that match ever again. Like, I think we peaked with Naito beating him for the title. I don't think you're gonna see creatively like anything better. Like, I don't see what the point of having Okada get his win back. He's already beaten him the first time when they challenged him, and where Naito lost the challenge, and then he beat, you know, Okada later on. So again, like, overall, like, the show I thought was just so unnecessary. Like, I think there were some good matches on there, but overall, like, I gave the opener, not the Battle Royal handcuff bullshit thing. That was atrocious garbage. I don't know whose idea that was. It's either, I got to think it's probably Dick Togo's, because apparently all the bad ideas in New Japan are his fault. So Dick Togo, go fuck yourself. The junior tag title match between Bullet Club and Mega Coaches, I gave that 2.5 stars. It was okay. Nothing, but it's just like, you know, it's like the greatest hits of all 4 guys. They're not doing anything creative or interesting. It's just their same moves again and again. It was okay, but it was fine. Desperado versus Robbie Eagles. I think this is my second favorite match on the show. I love this match. I thought it was such a great limb work match, such great wrestling psychology. And it's nice to see Robbie Eagles kind of get out of the element of being a high flyer and be a ground wrestler. And Desperado was right up there with him, and just such great drama between these two. So I really like that. I gave that 4 stars. Okada versus Cobb. I like this. This is another 4-star match. I think they have such excellent chemistry with each other. For me, the downside to any of these matches is the crowd. Like, they can't cheer. There's so much empty space in the Tokyo Dome, which I think is so strange to see. But I can't fault the work between Okada and Cobb. I think this is the best that Cobb. This year is probably the peak of Cobb's career so far. And if you don't think about putting the belt on him like down the line, maybe in 2022 or 2023, I don't know why you would keep having this guy on your roster except to put over people, which I think is just a complete waste. The tag team title match, I guess this might be what JP's talking about. I did not like this match. I gave it 3 stars out of just, the back half of this match. The front half of this match, the first 20 minutes or so, 25 minutes, is boring because nothing happened and nothing really played into the finish, in my opinion. The last 10 minutes of this match were fine. But, like, am I ever going to want to watch this match ever again? No, never.
If you want to fall asleep, it'd come in handy for that.
Well, there you go. But again, like, the whole storyline that the commentary team was talking about, especially from Chris Charlton, is that, Naito wants to be the IWGP heavyweight champion again. So why did you give him the tag belts? It's like, you're asking the same question that apparently, Taichi and Zack Sabre Jr. are asking. Why are you talking about the tag team titles if you want to be the singles champion again? So I'm not a fan of that. But main event, 4.5 stars, Takagi versus Tanahashi. Listen, Tanahashi, when you need someone to like fill in and you need him for a big spot like the main event of a Tokyo Dome show, that shouldn't be happening in the first place. But if you need it, there's no better person to go than Tanahashi, except for Okada, but he's already busy. So and
it's a good storyline reason. You have him. He beat Shingo for the Never Openweight title. There was it was the thing. I mean, I think I'd originally said on the weekend show, I thought, are they going to go with Hiromu? Are they going to try and hotshot something to put in there? I'm glad they didn't. Like, as soon as it was, I kind of saw people going, with Tanahashi, it makes sense. You're like, yeah, when in doubt, just get someone. He's a big main eventer. He's going to have a match. The crowd are going to react as much as they can react to him. And therefore, it's common sense. And he knows how to work this. Plus, he's got someone in there like Shingo who also knows how to work that big main event style. So you've kind of got 2 guys who, even though they know they're going long, and there's 3 matches on this show that are 35 minutes out of a 6-match card, which I think that needs to be spoken about, because there's so much on this where you think you could lose 10 minutes of quite a bit of stuff. And for that to be the case, particularly the Rambo, which just shouldn't have existed in the first place. But Gareth, what did you make of it as a show?
Overall, I mean, I'm sort of similar to WH really, in that there were matches on here that I really enjoyed, but it was just that feeling of like, what is this kind of thing? I think when I first turned it on, and then you sort of see the vastness of the Tokyo Dome, so obviously with so much light in there and so much empty space in there, and you're just looking at it and just thinking, like, why is this even going on in this place right now? It just had that kind
especially when there's an Olympics down the road that can't have anyone.
Exactly, and it just felt so odd. And then when you talk about, like, okay, how many people were in there, I was just thinking, how much does this place cost to hire? Like, this must be, to wash your face on this building, you must have to sell some pile of tickets just to cover the hire and running costs. I don't know how it works and what relationships they've got and things like that. But I was thinking, there's no way they can be making money on this building here, and so that just all just felt a bit odd. And I think it was sort of like built into it is the lack of buzz that there's been around New Japan generally, but then I think just the lack of buzz around this show. Like, it was, I think it literally was probably about Wednesday, Thursday last week, then I even realized this was going ahead. And then the idea of thinking that there's a New Japan show going on in the Tokyo Dome, and it sort of felt inconsequential, really. It just felt like nobody was talking about it. It didn't feel like a big deal at all, really. So again, I think that's always something that, like, affects your mood, kind of thing, when you're going into a show. Obviously, when you're kind of like geared up for it and you're hyped and you've been thinking all week about, 3 or 4 matches on a card that you're really excited about, and you think the event's going to be like a big show and things like that. I think that mood going into it always has like an impact on how you view the show. And then, so I think starting things off and then you know, unfortunately, I did watch the Rambo, and then like, you know, obviously that original, you know, tag match as well. You were kind of like sat there an hour and a half into a show at the end of that match, thinking like fuck, what am I doing with my life, kind of thing. Really, like sat here watching this. I was even thinking maybe I should have watched Battle Riot at that point, but I really did. I really did get perked up by the Robbie Eagles Desperado match. Really, really enjoyed that. I think it was. I was really surprised, like when I saw on the app the averages come through, and I think it was like tracking at like 3.6 or something like that. Like I went 4 stars on this. Like it was one of those where, you know, WH mentioned the limb work in there. I just thought Eagles was first class with that here, with him going into with the knee injury. I think the way that he's selling in this match, where he was like he remembered to sell it at all times, but he wasn't like selling it dead. Like he was still hitting moves with his bad leg, and like that's my favorite kind of selling. Is that yes, it still hurts, but in the adrenaline of the match and in that thing of the contest, you're still trying to win. Of course, you're still going to lose your leg. You're going to fucking pay the price for it tomorrow or later in the match or something like that potentially. But you know, I think it was ace. It was like a new side of Robbie Eagles that I've not seen before or not seen as much, and really enjoyed that. And then I think sort of towards the end when he put on that finisher, that Ron Miller special, like the way that like he broke the hold off and he like really kicked into his legs, and then he like really cranked it in deeper. It was such a I loved it just as a submission to finish the match, and it just left me like feeling really kind of like, yes, I was on his side to like win that belt like by the end, because the way it worked it. So he absolutely had me in a match where going into it cold at the start, I had no investment at all, but Robbie Eagles' work just totally got me into it. So, you know, that was a good solid 4 stars for me. I really enjoyed that one. I mean,
I'd go with you on that match, because I think that one is like it just needed a kind of a shot in the arm. I think in a way, just like a new fresh face in that junior division, and it's good seeing Robbie Eagles kind of get elevated, because I mean I've followed a bit of his work, and he was an MCW last month as well, and this is someone who's put in the hard yards, and it's probably more of a shame for him that he didn't such a big high profile match for him. He wouldn't have had any sort of friends or family being able to come over with him as well. That's always a kind of disappointment, but I'd be with you on that as well. And like I say, relatively simple story about regarding kind of limb work, with them both sort of going after each other's legs. And I enjoyed. I thought it was notable that Aussie Open were mentioned a couple of times by Kevin Kelly on the broadcast as well. That seemed to suggest that they were going to be coming in, which I'm completely down with as well on that. I think that's obviously been a long time coming for us over here. We've kind of always been aware that might be happening. So I'd expect to see them possibly around that tag league, because but it's certainly like an interesting direction to go in with Robbie Eagles. So yeah, I'd agree with you on that. I think I only went 3.5 on that, and I think I may need to kind of go. I enjoyed it a lot more than that. Sorry, Gareth, I interrupted you there. Just to give my
no, it's fine, and you just made me think of something else there, because again, we've talked as well about like the junior division needing freshening up, and it's been like the same faces like very regularly. And that win does freshen it up. There's some new matchups that can happen there, and new combinations of people. So it definitely, definitely that junior division has just had a little kickstart, I think, to it with that result. Obviously, that was then followed by the Cobb Okada match, which is another one that I really enjoyed. Gave it 3.75, and given that like I've not been watching New Japan as avidly as I would have done previously, and that in the past I'd have literally watched everything that they put out on New Japan World, and watched the lot. I've been very much picking and choosing, and it's been very much more like big cards that I've been watching. But this year, Jeff Cobb, every single time I see him, I'm just like, who is this bloke? Like, he's just put it together. Everything is whatever he's doing over there, whoever he's working with, whoever the way that they're talking to him about his matches and developing that side of things. It's like you used to get him, and you'd get these occasional Jeff Cobb matches where you thought like, oh yeah, this guy looks like he's got something, and then you'd see maybe like 2 or 3 where they were a bit average and that sort of shit the bed a little bit. I think you've said in the past, JP, like he sort of almost like rose to the level of his opponent sometimes, and like you then got that like higher level out of him. I feel like he's just delivering every time, and he looks like a killer. He looks like a fucking $1,000,000 when he's in there. Everything that he does just looks like so intense and so hard hitting. And then plus, like with the power that he's got, he just makes things look realistic as well. There was that spot where Okada dived on the outside and Cobb caught him on the outside and then just turned it into like a deadlift suplex, and you're just like, Jesus Christ, like the natural strength and power of this bloke. Like he looks so realistic, and whatever fire they've lit under him in Japan, like God, it's absolutely changed him. And I just think as a career trajectory now, I think WH said there, if they're not thinking about putting a belt on him next year, they fucking should be, because he's just like rocketing forward. He's I think I pointed out at the time, like he beat Ospreay in the G1 last year. Well, if Ospreay's coming back, Cobb looks like the main man in that group for me, not Ospreay. Like Cobb's the one who should be front and center. They should be fucking booting Ospreay out of the group.
He is a guy who I think is going to be like spoke about, certainly the most improved wrestler. Just thinking of the kind of year he's had, and the kind of, and I completely agree with that in terms of the character work. On 3.75 on this, like thoroughly enjoyed it. Knew I was going to enjoy it. I think if the only kind of gripe I would have, I think there's an optimum Jeff Cobb match time length, and it was like kind of what they did with Shingo at the Dome, where it's around that 15-minute mark, and I think that's kind of the thing that I'd be doing with him. But they've managed to just him as a heel. And I know WH, there's been times where you've not been impressed by Jeff Cobb.
No.
He's known that as well, hasn't he? Very directly. But here, like, it's the fact of him turning it around is, I mean, these are the little kind of crumbs of joy that they've had, like along with like a Shingo as well, that he's managed to come through.
I think maybe Gareth said it, like he wrestles to the level of his whatever push he's getting. So the matches I've kind of criticized his performances were on like Strong, where he's gonna lose to, he knows he's gonna lose to Kenta in like some challenge for like the US title, whatever, the briefcase stuff. And okay, I don't blame him, but at the same time, like, yeah, and I tweeted about it, and someone showed it to him, or he saw it, and then he like, oh, sorry, I didn't do 15 flips in the first 7 minutes. And that was my little running joke. It's like, hey, where are my flips, dude? You promised me. Next time I'll do them anyways. But he has gotten so much better since he's come back to Japan. And since he kind of went heelish with United Empire, I think that was the trick. It's like, okay, because like he was like wrestling as a babyface. He shouldn't be wrestling as a babyface. He should be wrestling as a killer. Like they have that formula with people in the past, with like Vader and Scott Norton, Giant Bernard, people like that. And that's how you should push Jeff Cobb. And they're finally doing that. I like the fact that, Okan is his mouthpiece, kind of like for, when you say something in Japanese. Okay. He's like, Okan is kind of like the perfect, like what Andrade needs in AEW, like Cobb has in Japan with Okan, right? Like that's great, because he speaks English, and he can translate things into English for Cobb, and then he can talk for him in Japanese and stuff like that. And I just think like him being kind of a mean, surly bastard is a great persona for him to have, especially the longer hair. He wears it over his face. He's kind of got like Taz with the towel, you know what I mean? But it's his hair without the towel, right? Yeah. So I think that's a great look for him. So I think, the natural thing, Ospreay comes back, Cobb says, fuck you, you left us. You left us because you're a little crybaby, blah, blah, blah. And then he kicks him out, and it's him, Okan, and maybe, get Gabriel Kidd in there. Maybe that's his excursion. He joins the United Empire with these guys.
We still got Hanare, who's in there as well.
Oh, yeah. Cobb and Hanare, I think, would make a great bruiser tag team.
I think so. And dear Lord, I mean, well, they're building
they need
up
to freshen up that tag division even more, right? So
I'm sure. Yeah. Well, they've put in Goto and Yoshihashi, haven't they, as the kind of like a 3-way challenge going on there, which in some ways, I've said it a long time, it gives them something to do. If you are going to always keep them around and do something, it's like, well, the tag division. And I think I'll always stick up for big match Goto. I always think, Goto in those dome matches where every year is like, why is Goto in there? And it's just like, well, him and Shibata have delivered an absolute fucking belter here, or him and Ishii have. And, those kind of good memories of that. I can't say it makes me excited. It's not Gorillas of Destiny, if you want me to take a positive from it. Like, at least they're not going back to that. They did get mentioned, like, by Kevin Kelly, as if for him to say, please don't go back to that. I don't think I could call another one of those matches. I've got nothing left to give on that front. So, yeah, and maybe Aussie Open, like we said earlier on. Maybe get them in there as well. Obviously, on the second, I mean, that tag, I mean, I don't think I've rated it. For me, I cooked a curry in that time. And I managed to do lots of odd jobs, like empty out the dishwasher, put it back in. And I'd have this match ongoing. And then I'd be looking at it and I'd be going, fuck, I need to get the rice on, don't I? Right, I better do that then. And so I found, like, as an accompaniment to me doing several chores, I don't know why I can't say that word, it was handy. But Jesus, it's probably my bigger overall point about New Japan, and I think it's these match structures, it's these card structures. There was a point at the start of the pandemic when they weren't doing multi-mans and they were just 6 matches on a card, and we were all saying, do you know what, it's pretty easy watch. If they stick to this is good. I'm looking at that Rambo and I'm thinking, you've got a Tokyo Dome card here where you've got 6 matches, all of the shortest of which is just over 19 minutes in Okada versus Cobb. You've got the kind of talent of Ishii there. You've got Nagata. You've got Sho. You've got Minoru Suzuki. You have Kenta. You have Great Okan in that. You're thinking you couldn't put together some singles programs? Maybe kind of tease a few things for the G1? Little things like that might be interesting. Is that, like, does it have to be a multi-man or nothing? Like, I mean, they're the things that kind of bother me. And it makes me kind of think for them, like, this is a crew that's kind of running on empty. And while this show was good, the aesthetics of it didn't help. Like, just looking at a load of people sat on the turf at the Tokyo Dome. And I was talking to you last night, WH, and you're saying, like, if you're coming over and you want to go to a wrestling venue, you want to go to Budokan, you want to go to Korakuen. Looking at this didn't make me feel like going to the Tokyo Dome was something I really wanted to do, because it was like, it just sort of ruined that atmosphere when you'd see it with 45,000 people and, you'd hear all the stories and everything else. And then just the sort of lack of buzz about this, and then not even any GIFs coming out that might have been quite fun to watch, because they all get fucking taken down in the weirdest own goal of social media use of all time, where people actively want to promote your product and you don't want them to. So, yeah, it might be a case we're waiting for some of those gaijin to come in to kind of liven things up. Can
I just say that on that point, it's like, one of the best products from Japanese wrestling is Stardom. They have, now that Brie Priestley has gone to become Blair Davenport on EastEnders, or where the fuck she's doing now, she they have no gaijins working there.
Have you watched EastEnders?
I'm pretty sure I've caught an episode here and there of EastEnders on CBC, which is, I think, the channel that imports EastEnders.
What year, WH? I have to push you on this point.
I would have no idea about the character names. It's probably 1997 or something like that.
Oh, if only Joe was here. It'd just be the most perfect.
But it's the best product coming from Japan is Stardom, and there's you don't need, if you have a strong roster of just native talent, that's all you need. And if you push them right, that's all you need. Like, I'm sorry, I don't buy this narrative that you get the foreign. If you rely too much on imports, and and people in the wrestling can attest to this. If your company relies too much on import talent, then what happens when there's a situation where they can't come in, whether it's financial or because of pandemic? Well, you're fucked then. And we've seen that happen to New Japan. Like, over the years, they thought we're going to be the company that has a lot of international talent, and it worked for a long time. But once the pandemic hits, it's like, what do we do now? Well, they didn't spend the time building up a lot of their native talent. like whether like pushing guys who are juniors into becoming more kind of open weight talents or things like that. Like I think Hiromu should have been moving into heavyweight a lot sooner than this. I don't know why they gave him the junior title again. You know,
it's a bit dispiriting as well having him come out and challenge Robbie Eagles immediately, unless it's putting over Robbie Eagles and him eventually moving up for like a G1.
Like I think that's why Desperado lost it. I think that's why Desperado lost the title. I think it's gonna they're gonna maybe move him up finally. You know, like he has the build to become a heavyweight. Like you know,
I think he's got the skills. I think it could be like a Tai Chi move.
Yeah,
where you take him out of the division, and in fact, he can be better because he's kind of got a move set and he's got a match style that I'd be interested to see him wrestle heavyweights with.
And he's not cosplaying as a fucking anime character who lip syncs to like a bad anime song. So, you know, like Tai Chi.
I have heard you mention before, and it's something they don't do, and I've often wondered if they do, that why aren't they going for any other talent? They have the resources to be able to do it. Japanese talent in other companies.
There is kind of like that general mindset. I mean, they do it. They brought in Shugo, and they brought in like Taichi was an All Japan guy. He trained in their dojo, and then they brought him into New Japan and stuff like that. It's not like they never.
Someone like Aita going to Noah, like if that is the case, God, he'd be a great fit for the juniors.
Oh, he's already done. Like he did the match with Liger in Best of the Super Juniors, years ago. The thing is like there's still this kind of mentality where it's like you're not one of us. You know, like you didn't train in our system, so we don't necessarily want you. It's also like there's kind of sometimes stigmas attached to working for certain companies, and that you know this company A doesn't want a person from company B or C because we have a bad relationship with you, or traditionally like we don't think your system is as good as our system, because like there are little flourishes that are different in the training of different dojos, New Japan Dojo, All Japan Dojo, Noah Dojo. Like All Japan Dojo, like there's that documentary with like Francesco Akira did, like, and then Yuma Aoyagi, he's the head coach. He said, "Oh, Baba style of hitting the ropes is we hit with our sides. We don't hit other companies do full back. We hit the ropes with our sides." And then I was watching, like, oh my god, it's true. Like all the guys in All Japan and Noah hit the ropes with their side of their bodies, not with the back. So it's really interesting seeing things like that. But my original point, like you don't need foreigners. Like, it's good to have them. They should accent your product. They shouldn't be half your product. You know what I mean? And then we have this situation with New Japan where it's less interesting because we can't get in. You know, for me, Jay White not being there is like I don't give a shit, right? You know, you don't have Ospreay or whatever, right? You know, so. But I look at the companies that have zero foreigners and they're still having good products, like Joshi in particular. It's hard to get foreign women to come over to Japan these days. Like I think because like WWE, you know, NXT and AEW are like going out of their way to hire like home like
even
talent,
Ring of Honor and Impact,
right? So like a lot of these women are like, oh, I don't have to go to a foreign country, even though it's Japan, and probably they have aspirations to working in Japan, but like. Working for a Joshi company is not the same as working for New Japan, right? Like there's not the same prestige. It's more for the experience, right? To get that to eventually be hired by NXT or AEW in the past, or even like Ring of Honor or something like that. So they're not reliant on foreign talent, and they don't have to. They've never pushed like foreign talents as hard. Like the last person that they really pushed hard was Bea Priestley, and before her was Toni Storm. And you know, with Toni Storm, they paid the price for that because she would like to be doing like progress and like you know Rev Pro or whatever, and she wouldn't spend as much time. And though she was like I think you know World of Stardom champion at the time or something like that. You know what I mean? So it's like they learned from that. It's like okay, we're not unless you're living here, unless you're committing it to us full time, we're not going to push you. You're just going to be part of our roster, and we are just kind of a side attraction. And I think that's the way you have to think about talents these ways, especially like you know like if you have to kind of think if you're wrestling promotion, are we going to have travel restrictions in the future if we're bringing in talent? Like, I think American companies have the right attitude. You want to work for us, you move here. It's not fly in, fly out. You move here. And, you know, like that, like you think WB is going to say to someone in the UK, you can move back and forth. You can move back. No, you want to live here. You're going to move to Florida and you're going to live here.
Today, Emi Sakura announced that she's moving to the US on a permanent basis.
What, to work for AEW?
To work for AEW, which I know Gareth's absolutely buzzing about. You were a big fan of the Freddie Mercury routine that she did. I think Benno absolutely loathed it. that being the case. I mean, it's a really interesting point. I mean, and I think as well, I mean, speaking about Stardom, and I read your preview and listened to the post Purest that you did with Wah.
Yes.
With Wah. Yeah. All right, Garth. But with Stardom as well, that they've managed over this lockdown period. I mean, in terms of the young talent that they're bringing through as well, like the Starlight Kids and the Azumis of the world, who, I mean, there's child labor laws that's been broken, if I can be brutally honest about it, is how it comes across to me. The fact that Azumi, am I right in thinking, Gareth, this is amazing. She's 18, she's got 7 years experience. But the thing is, what I would say, and this is my current opinion at the moment, I think Stardom is the best training facility in wrestling. I think just the sheer amount of talent that they seem to have brought through in their training at this point has proven that they can do it. I think with New Japan, I think there's kind of the issue with time as well, where I'm worried about like Yuta Tsuji's going out on excursion now, and that'll be interesting to see what he does, because is he not closer to 30? I'm not sure about Yamura. I think he is that bit younger, but yeah, I always worry about the depth chart with New Japan, and I think just with all of these recent matches, it feels like they've kind of threw a lot of stuff quite quickly, and this is really where your creative booking needs to come into play.
Well, I mean, they send people on excursions. I remember like there was a point where it's like, oh my God, they're set. You got Shota, you have Ren Narita, you have like, Kawato before he became Master Wato, but then they bring them back in these, like some of these guys in like horrible gimmicks. And I worry about Ren Narita. Like Shota Umino looks like he's going to do like a Tanahashi cosplay based on like.
That's exactly what he looked like when I saw him last weekend.
Right. So like he seems maybe like, okay, he's going to have maybe a decent character, but like what you see on their excursions isn't the same, gear or character that they're going to have when they come back to New Japan. They might saddle these guys with like something horrible. And I really worry more on the creative side rather than like the amount of talent they have. I really worry more about like, what are they going to, are they going to give Master Wato 2 to fucking Shota Umino? Like they turn Ren Narita into a fucking, giant mecha pilot from fucking anime. That's going to be his character. Who knows? I have no faith in like the creative end of New Japan at all. Like the talent wise, the raw talent, the human resources side. Okay. They have a great training system and it works, but like what are they going to be given as characters when they come back? That's the big question.
Yeah, that creative aspect is something that's always a bit worrying. And I also think as well, I put a shout out there, I'll say this all the time, I watch New Japan Strong every week. As soon as you can get him over, Clark Connors, put him in that junior division. I think he's a great wrestler. I think he can have some really good stuff. I think there's a lot of value in Alex Coughlin. I liked him in Bloodsport. He was one of the people who showed that bit of character. Carl Fredericks as well. Like those kind of people. In some ways, when we think of bringing in the kind of Gaijin, the people I'm more interested in bringing is if they brought in some of the people from New Japan Strong. Just to see, like, I think there's been a bit of time investment in them as well. And I think that would be something that I'd probably find a bit more interesting if they were going to do that, because they would feel like real fresh talents from that as well. Oh,
and also they're not people who would come in that you'd need to be like sticking a rocket under. They're people who like they can come in and they can kind of ease their way through have fresh matches, but they don't need to be winning all the time. They could be they could be a tag team at either level or things like that. I think that for me, there is that big part with New Japan currently where there's just that need to add depth to the roster, but it doesn't need to just be superstar depth. It just needs to be creating some fresh matches, just creating some fresh teams, some fresh one-on-ones and things like that. People who can lose as well and think. I think that's the value in some of those guys, and maybe 3 years, 4 years down the line, then they do progress through, and then they do become stars. But there's no need to have a rush about it in the same way that a big name talent who are coming into the company now, they would kind of almost feel that need to kind of just be disrupting things at the top end. While that's needed, I think it's throughout the card really that it needs to be done.
Well, we've gone from New Japan, and we're going to take a trip over. At the beginning, you'll have noticed of this podcast, we didn't go into it like because we spoke for a good bit on the pre-show as well. This weekend, Gareth went to your second live show since the pandemic. You're not doing any live shows yet, are you?
There hasn't been anything in like my vicinity, like in Toronto. There hasn't been any announcements.
If there was an outdoor show, I'll throw this out. I'm always banging on about this. If there was an outdoor show, would you go to it? Both of you?
I would go if John Way and Braden Davey wanted to go, or sure. I wouldn't just me and one friend, maybe not, but it depends. Again, it depends on who it is, which company it is as well. There is several local promotions. Some of them okay, I'll give it a chance. And there's some I don't want to even waste time even on an outdoor show for you guys. It depends on the talent on there. It's I'm not gonna say names. It's I might run into these people in real life, and I don't.
Yeah. Good shout on that one. Well, I wasn't the only person who was having a big meet up this weekend. Gareth, you were having you went to see Catch Pro Wrestling. Is that right? Where was it in Manchester? Where were they holding the show?
It was at the Manchester Academy at the university there. So I've seen a few gigs in there in the past. So yeah, it was good to. Oh, who was the last person I saw there was the Lemonheads. It's one of those kind of mid-size, small to mid-size rooms there. But I think the last time I went there was for the Lemonheads. But they're just one of those venues over the years that there's always it's kind of that student scene. It was more where that student gig scene get over to Manchester, and you're seeing people before they're at their either before they're at their arena level or on the come down. see them at both ends of their career, kind of thing at this venue. But I mean, I think for the Catch show there was about 150 people in the building, all in all. So I think it was their second ever show. So it was a decent enough crowd, especially post pandemic. But for me, it was just more about just probably the social side, really, and just getting over to Manchester there and just meeting up with the Ogdens again, met up with Alan Cheapshot.
He has a fine head of hair in him, Alan Cheapshot, doesn't he?
He does.
Really?
There's Soyun Chu. Andy was calling him with that new hairdo he's got going on there. But yeah, Chris and Shauna, and managed to bump into a couple of patrons in Connor and Dylan as well, and had a good crack with them. But yeah, it was one of those where definitely the social scene took over for me, and I've got very, very hazy memories of the last two matches on this show because, I'd put a few beers away before I'd even got to Manchester on the train of a decent percentage, and then I had a couple on my Todd when I got to Manchester as well before I met Alan at the Brewdog there. So yeah, by the time I got to the end of the show, I was quite a few deep. So yeah, God knows where I was bloody rabbiting on about by the end of that show. But the show in itself, it was predominantly centered around a British women's tournament for the Great British Heritage Tournament that they were running on the day. Couple of good matches on there. There was, I've said in the past, big fan of Alexis Falcon, big fan of Lizzie Evo. Both of those were in, really good matches early on in the show. The finish of one of them wasn't necessarily the best, but yeah, both those matches, particularly the one with Chantel Jordan that Alexis Falcon had, was a really good strong match. And I'm looking forward this weekend to seeing Lizzie Evo and Alexis Falcon go at it at TNT. They're doing a Falls Count Anywhere match at TNT this weekend. So yeah, they're definitely two people that I'd be saying out of this scene currently, the way that it's been decimated. They're two of the people that were highlights pre-pandemic for me, and they've both kind of hit the ground running from what I've seen in these two shows so far. So definitely recommend seeing either of those when on the card. The rest of the card itself, there was some there was just some dull matches, really. If I'm honest, there was like a Kevin Lloyd Tom Thurwell match to open up that was like a dark match that was a bit dull. The finish was a bit odd on that one. Tag team match with the Lycos Jim against Dean Allmark and Jody Fleisch, and again it was fine, but it was nothing to write home about, And then likewise there was a 3-way match with Charles Crowley, Big Guns Joe, and Gene Money as well, and again, for me, that was pretty pretty dull, really. To be honest, on that one, the main event was from the semi-finals of all the women's matches that had took place earlier on. It was a 4-way, and it was like an Iron Man 4-way for the women's title to finish things off. And it was really good. They had a scoreboard up at the back of the screen where it sort of showed you how many falls that each of the 4 had actually got. So you kind of felt like you were watching it a bit like live, and it kind of made you buy into it as well, especially with the angle that they did with Lizzie Evo going like 2 up, and she was very much working this kind of gimmick of just kind of clearing the ring and just trying to maintain her lead at the top and kind of see it through to the end of the match, which she did, and walked away with the belt to plenty of booze.
Easy thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah. It was good. I thought that worked well. I think the only issue for some people was that the show started late and it ended late, so there was a lot of people leaving because there was obviously the old situation with making trains, which obviously you had last week with RevPro in Bristol, and a perennial problem from BritRest, really. But I mean, all in all, I had a cracking day, got blind drunk, had a good laugh with loads of people, saw a couple of good, matches. The show itself was fine, and again, it was one of those where it was just good to be back at wrestling, really.
I think that's it, and I think you've kind of got it feels very similar to how I kind of felt a lot about RevPro in Bristol, where I haven't got the expectancy that this is going to be like delivering 5-star matches and things like that. It's a day out of the wrestling. It's a small company. It's the second show they've done. Full disclosure, we've spoken to the owners a few times about, and you kind of you wish them all the best. The kind of overrunning thing is a big thing, and I saw Ian Hamilton suggest today that why not just have there's a match on the card, and if you're running short of time, that's the one that goes. And you kind of have that one just before the main event, just so you're saving yourself that bit of time, because it feels like how many matches were on this show?
There was 8. Yeah, I think there was 8 in total.
If we're aiming for 3 hours, there's a part of me that thinks 3 on either side. If it were me erring on the side of caution for this, that can you do 3 on either side? Do you need to have kind of 8 matches there? And you say obviously there's a tournament and other stuff going on and other various storylines, but it's like say seems like it's good to be out of the wrestling, isn't it? And people having a good time and meeting up with old mates. That's what it seemed to me. It seemed to be a lot of people having the meet up and having the social, and it's a nice thing to do.
Yeah, it was. It was just, let's say, just good to be back, really. And then when you think about it from a show point of view, it's the second show they've ever run. The promoters are Catch, so there's going to be teething problems and things like that. It's one of them. You're prepared to
give them on the job, aren't you?
Exactly. You give them the benefit of the doubt. If they're still doing this 8, 9, 10 shows in, if they're still going at that point and things like that, then then you start to have serious questions. But I'd always give someone the benefit of the doubt when they're running the second show. But all in all, just had a good time. Just wished I'd maybe had about 3 or 4 beers less, probably.
I don't know. You say that with the benefit of hindsight. Is there anything about the British wrestling scene, WH, that at all makes you think, well, I need to get over it straight away and catch some of this stuff?
Just meeting you, Gareth, and Benno.
See, it's the same thing. Do you know what? And it's like we say it as well. It's like, I wish there was a big show in Toronto, because it just gives us all an excuse for a big meet-up. And I think that's the part of this kind of pandemic wrestling that we all kind of forget as being part of the wider wrestling community. It's that social meet-up. We're social animals at the end of the day, and you want to be able to go out and kind of meet people for it. The fact that there's any kind of form of entertainment that people are able to go to feels like it's quite nice. Was it socially distanced inside? Did it have was there any restrictions, or was okay, some people wearing masks if they wanted to? Not really.
I don't think anyone had a mask on. I don't think. It was just go for it. We've had Freedom Days, JP, don't you know? We're free. We can do what we want now, didn't you hear?
It feels that way. It really does. It feels like, I tell you what, it feels like we're on the eve of the purge. Is how it is the kind of vibe I'm getting from Britain at the moment. Like, there's a lot of the very angry people about other people wearing masks, like really fucking livid about that shit, which I don't get. And I will say this as well, as someone who occasionally, I know this may seem unbelievable, but you're walking around and you don't want to chat to everyone that you see. That mask was a godsend. Just gave you a license to be antisocial, and I'm kind of gutted that might be going away. So, but yeah, yeah. That's,
everyone, people will be throwing pizza cutters at you before you know it.
Well, do you know what? Like, yeah, they will do. Actually, make sure they're fucking gimmicked. All right, that just seems needlessly like horrific. Like, again, I showed my sons that, which makes me feel like a bad parent for that as well. There was one other thing on, and I'm pretty sure neither of you watched this. Is that right? Neither of you watched MLW's Battle Riot 3.
There's only so much, like, there's only a certain threshold that I will cross for you, JP, and that MLW is not something that I'm going to cross the threshold for. So, no.
Well, they're back. You'll be delighted to know, Major League Wrestling. Yeah, they were back this. Well, they recorded this a couple of weeks ago. This was up on YouTube. They had their Battle Riot 3, which is, do you know what? It's really weird with this because it's like all they show, the only match they show on this is the Battle Riot itself, which is basically the Royal Rumble coming in every 1 minute. There's 40 wrestlers, which I will go through the list because I think it's just the fucking novelty value alone will just make you go, what the fuck is he doing there? And you're like, yeah, that happened. It was like a sold out ECW arena. So it had that kind of like slightly anarchic vibe to it. Did you ever watch any Lucha Underground at all?
A little bit here and there. Yeah, a little bit here and there. First season, I think.
So you know they've brought in, well, he's called Cesar Duran, the actor.
Right, yeah.
Oh, this was brilliant. He came out at the beginning, and then Injustice, who come out to this like the knockoff Eminem theme. Myron Reed and Benno's favourite wrestler, Jordan Oliver. And they came out to confront him. And Cesar Duran just like quietly goes into the mic. He's like, who the fuck are you? Like, and to which just start fucking creasing up because that just sums up MLW. It's just like, you've had a couple of, this was recorded on the 10th of July and he's just still going to leave this stuff in there as well. They've brought in, and there's a new LAX in case you're interested. Danny Limelight and Slice Boogie. Well, I've taken the piss off, and he's a fucking unit, that bloke. Yeah, they had a load of kind of other like kind of variety of kind of stuff. They've recorded a lot of stuff for TV as well. But the Battle Riot match, which you could do pinfalls and submissions as well, ultimately won by Alexander Hammerstone, but a wild roster of people. Some of the people on there, Aramis and Aries, the Lucha guys, Buku Dao, if you remember him, in a hot rivalry with TJP. Calvin Tankman, who played kind of Hoss in this, which was, and he was very, you know, he had some really kind of good fun spots. They had a load of Contra unit guys towards the end. So Davari was there.
Of course,
Simon, Mads Kruger was there. Who is Nathan Jones? I'm convinced he's Nathan Jones. And he has that wrestling. I'm looking at WH's face, and it's the face of a man who's like, no, I'm having no part of this shit. They had Davey Richards was there at the start.
That was the name I was hoping to hear. Jock Wrestling, master, Dave Richards.
Yeah.
Bless his heart.
Very, very much, Dumb Jock Wrestling for that. And he was doing that, and he came out, and it was him and Tom Lawler at the beginning. So that was a bit of fun. Tom Lawler also came back out later on once he was eliminated. He came back in again, dressed up as LA Park, until one of the Von Erichs ripped his hat off. Gina Medina, who's still shit. Like, I'm shocked by this guy. He's absolute fucking wank. Gringo Loco, EJ and Duca, who was released from NXT and is just an absolute unit. and he eliminated 18 people. So they just setting him up there. Just thought he's going to be the monster for us. He's clunky.
So when you say absolutely, you're talking he looks like a giant penis?
No, if he did, aka the Johnsons in NWA TNA, then
Okay.
that would be fucking awesome. No, he instead he's just like an absolute like monster. Just like we just say a unit, just like a very big man, very muscular, much taller than most of the roster.
Air conditioner unit or refrigerator unit?
Oh, refrigerator unit.
Okay, just
big American fridge unit. Well, the ones you get the ice out of. Savio Vega was in, but not only as just Savio Vega, he was in as Kwang.
Brilliant.
Someone dressed up as Kimchi, but nothing like Kimchi. It was very weird. It was like kind of in and out. It's like, what? Kamala's handler? Like, why are we?
As a Korean person, I take great offense to the appropriation of the word kimchi for trainer, handler for, racist African savage gimmick.
Yeah. Mate, you should do. I don't think there's any clamour to see Kimchi in the year 2021. I don't know who this was aimed at. The Blue Meanie came out because obviously it was the ECW arena, so they had to do that. The Von Erichs were there. As always, just clunky as all hell, but inexplicably getting a reaction. And a long push in this as well. Who else was in there? And then they had all the various Contra unit boys, and it was won in the end by Alexander Hammerstone, who's one of their homegrown guys, and they've been wanting to set up the match now. They've been kind of teasing at it for really over a year. It's Jacob Fatu versus Alex Hammerstone, which I imagine they will do on some sort of pay-per-view or live Vice TV special. You watch it, it kind of looks like Impact. It kind of looks like ECW. It's all of the usual kind of madness and nonsense from an MLW show. And I sit there with a big smile on my face because it's my absolute guilty pleasure outside of like some bits of AAA. Yeah, and that was MLW, and it's free on YouTube. You don't have to fucking pay any money for it.
It's not free, you have to invest time. You can get money back.
Yeah,
you
true.
can never get time back, and that's a bigger investment.
Well, I mean, have a bath and put it on in the bar, but then you'd say, where's the time for that?
Well, then I'm appropriating Garrett's gimmick, aren't I?
Yeah, exactly. Gimmick infringement there, mate.
He's there reading about the death of the territories.
All I would say is, yeah, on that front, the investing of time. As I look on the GRAPPL app, it has an average of 2.91. So there you go. I think we've maybe devoted too much time even on this podcast.
Mate, like, as we know on MLW ratings, the way that it works is 3-star is really 4.5.
I was going to say that's nearly a full 5 on the MLW scale, that isn't it?
On the MLW scale, that's basically the same as Shingo Tanahashi. Like it's that level of quality if you're going with it on that. And I think on that note, we might well have covered all of the wrestling for this week. Fucking hell. We've managed to do that. And do you know what? There's a lot of wrestling content in this fucking show today, isn't there? There's a good half an hour of the kind of nonsense stuff. But my God, is there anything else that you guys particularly want?
I'm sorry I didn't talk about like people taking a shit on my doorstep or people stealing my rubbish bins or anything like that. But maybe I can come up with something next time I'm on, I guess, on the show. If I'm ever invited back.
And you will be. And we'll have Benno on here as well. And we'll have to make sure we tie it in with another GCW big Nick Gage match, just to kind of even it up for that. Because I think we're going to get a lot of blowback on that. But that's half the fun of the show.
I'm just looking forward to this. The other week when you two recorded and I couldn't, and I was kind of like walking around listening to you, like just thinking of the little bits that I would have been chipping in. I can't wait for Benno to be listening to the Nick Gage loving from tonight's show, and he's definitely going to be there, like. Bup, bup, bup.
Yeah, we'll get told off about that. I'll get told off about putting this up on YouTube for free the entire time. But WH. What have you got coming out? Where can the good people find you?
So you can find me at postwrestling.com, which is also where you can find Benno when he's gracious enough to join Martin Bushby on the British Wrestling experience. But I do a couple of shows over there. I do Post Perez usually every month with John Pollock. The last show I did with Waiting because John had some home issues, nothing too serious. I think they're okay.
Has he sorted it out yet?
I think so. I think.
Thank God.
He sorted that stuff out. So,
Gareth, you'll know when having toddlers, if you have got no hot water, like that's not a fucking laughing situation.
Not at all. Just
so I did it I did the show with the great, Nick Gage's favorite Asian producer, podcaster, Watting. That's a fun show. I do the Long and Winding Road, which I recorded last night, which will show. It's coming up this Sunday with you, JP Luan. Yes, we had a fun time. I think I might have. I'm thinking back. I think I might have offended quite a few people when that thing gets broadcast. But oh well, it's a Sunday for me. So, and then
I look forward to that.
And then I do the
mate. How did we go from Akira Taue, Mitsuharu Misawa to Nick Gage, Matt Cardona? It's within 24 hours. It's fucking wild.
It's the effect of the cross pollination of post wrestling and
yes.
GRAPPL. There you go. Right.
Yeah.
But also the last show I do is with Waiting. Usually every week when there's a Marvel Disney Plus show, it's called MCU Later, and JP will be a guest on a future episode of that, probably for when we're covering What If, which is the next series that Disney Plus is going to be streaming. We haven't decided which episode. Maybe they're going to give us a number of like the details of the episodes that are coming up, and then you can pick which one you would like to cover. So
I'm absolutely fascinated by it as well, and I've said I'm a big fan of MCU Later as well, because like it's the kind of thing as well, because I watch it so much with my sons that we end up, as I was telling you, we end up listening to the podcast because there's loads of stuff we don't know in terms of the backstory and the comics and things like that, and it sort of just brilliantly fills in the gaps as well.
I have a friend.
Love the end of Loki. I fucking loved the end of Loki.
I have friends who have who has one 16-year-old and he has one 7-year-old, and he lets them listen to like Post Perez, and I'm like, why? Why do you let your kids listen to me say fuck all the time? So I'm asking you, like, your kids are old enough, I guess it's okay.
There are they swear at me, so like that genie's out the bottle, mate. So like, yeah, they're not paying any attention at all to me at this stage. Sorry, I was interrupting. Yes, you got the Long and Winding Royal Road on Sunday. Is that right?
Yeah, it's coming out with you, JP, and it's fun. It's Mitsuharu Misawa versus Akira Taue from 1995. It's the Champions Carnival final from that year, and it's a great match. And find out. I'll save what you and I thought about it. It's a fun episode. I really enjoy talking with you, and it was kind of like a great timing that we were to do that yesterday, and then I'm on here right now with no coward. Deathmatch Richard is not here. By the way, I'm really hoping I get that nickname over Deathmatch Richard, because I think it's so appropriate. So
he's
like,
making a comeback. He's hitting the gym.
Gareth, whenever he starts going on about GCW or Nick Gage, you just say, "Listen, Deathmatch Richard."
That's it. We can do that. The seed is sown. That is
But that's it. Yeah. Postwrestling.com at WHPark9 if you want to see my horrendous takes on all the shit people in wrestling.
Your Instagram's great fun though. Those Joy Division t-shirts look fucking class. Like,
thank you very much. My Instagram is like my food pictures, and it has nothing to do with wrestling usually. Twitter is my wrestling thing, Facebook is my personal thing, Instagram is my food thing.
Yeah. That's a good shout.
Divide my social media that way.
And as long as you avoid all the conspiracy theorists, you're absolutely fine.
No. I mean, I've got my 5Gs working really well since I got my second shot.
Wow. So. I've been running on the phone tethering on air, and my 5G's been spectacular. So thank you, and thank you for the microchip that they put in there as well the other week. Thank them for that. Gareth, have you got anything to plug at all?
Same as always. Get yourself on Google Play, get yourself on the App Store, download that GRAPPL app and start getting your ratings in. And maybe as you listen to JP and WH doing that show there, you can go and check out and put your own ratings in. I noticed that you'd both put your ratings in on the app there. So spoiler alert, if you want to know what they thought about that Taue match, go and give them a follow on the GRAPPL app.
You can't see with the camera, but yeah, they get the GRAPPL app on my phone.
God bless it, because the thing is, when it comes to those top 10 lists at the end of the year, it's like, if that isn't there, I am fucked. Like, there's no way There's no way I'm remembering any of that as well. Yep, I will plug patreon.com/grapple. We will be doing a review of Gayer Girls at some point this week. We've got the Grappy Hour coming up as well as we hit the kind of end of the month. So yeah, we'll be working out all of that. The weekend show as well. I think there's lots of various little planning for various little projects to do. I know between sort of me, Benno, and Gareth as well. I've spoken to you, WH, about them. So hopefully some of those will come to fruition and not another one of my mad dreams. But until next week, bye.
See ya.
Bye-bye. Thanks for having me.
And there we go. And for those of you who are still watching, who don't subscribe to the Brit Rest is Dead tier, we are on the post-game bit, this is basically where we sort out the images and the show title as well, and the music. So what do we reckon for a title? What do you reckon, Gareth?
Oh. What's a
And
WH
turn on the
called?
lights, I was starting to feel like David Starr checking his Twitter feed in the dark.
Oh dear. Just trying to think of who else.
To Barry?
No, I'm just trying to think of title-wise. Allegedly came up a lot. There was another one as well. I was trying
what did WH call Jericho?
Pregnant Walrus.
Pregnant Walrus, wasn't it?
There was what else did we talk about in there? As yeah, I'm trying to think. I might need to go back. I might need to listen to some of the cage bits because I think that sorry, gauge bits, I should say. Go on.
I was going to say we were quite all business, really, weren't we? We were straight into the wrestling, pretty much, weren't we? There wasn't much.
Fucking loads, wasn't there? No bastard in problem. It was like bloody hell. And then we did all the kind of the chit chat in the earlier bit, but that's all then out there as well. So everyone.
I should have just done my best Benno for a sec. Yeah, I met up with my mate Matty Richards, and blah blah blah. Someone took a shit.
Matty Edwards, mate. If you said Matty
Matty, is it Matty Edwards or is Matty?
It's Matty Ed. Oh,
I apologize, Matty. Sorry.
He is. Oh, Matty. And I'll tell you what, he's a happy Santa, young Santa. Yes. When you see him with that beard, it's just like a thing of pure joy on it. Just looking back in the comments as well for it, and I'm just trying to think of like some of the bits where we went down.
I think Gage has to be
Sean Ryder as a shout. Have we done that already?
We need something about Nick Gage. He's got to be.
It's got to be about Nick Gage because that's
going to pop be about Nick Gage. I'll have a listen through that bit then, and I'll select one because I'll start the editing for this.
You should just call it the episode that Benno and Stephanie Chase are going to hate.
Yep. If it pisses them off, I think then we're winning. Then at that stage, show images. Oh, I'll try to think music.
Music.
What do you reckon?
Love Spreads by the Stone Roses.
Do you know what? That's a fucking great shout to start off with. No?
Yeah. Did we mention that on the main show or the pre-show? This is where my brain's always frazzled by the end.
That was on the main show.
That was the main show, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, that's when we went into the cover band thing. There we go.
Countdown. You could have the theme tune to Countdown.
At the end,
I'm just going through the chat here just to see what we actually talked about.
If you're in the chat still, please tell us. WHDK. Oh,
all day.
WHDK. I'm liking.
Yeah, absolutely. Good.
Yeah,
he can play Judas at the end, and he can sing along now.
Fozzy sucks. Like someone in the chat said they're going to see Fozzy. I'm sorry. I hope you can get a refund. Really.
It looks desperate at their last gig. Didn't look like fuck all people there.
Really.
Christ above. Yeah. It didn't look impressive. I was like, what the fuck's going on here? I'm loving that WHDK. That works entirely for me. I'm like, yeah, completely.
I don't know how I feel about that, but it's your choice, JP.
I honestly, it's good. Yeah. It's oh god, it's bliss. Yeah, I'm loving that. Yeah, definitely going to do that one. And then Stone Roses, and then do you want to do the countdown theme as the closeout?
It's up to you, whatever.
Can do. It's an easy shout if you want to do that.
Why not?
I don't think you lads give a shit. You're knackered now, aren't you?
No, I'm fine. I'm gonna be up for quite a while now.
Oh, you're
that's my evening, so I'm okay. So
bloody 11:45 here. Sorry, 1:45 here. We'll be fucking all over the place. I'm not even convinced my sons are actually asleep at all as well.
You can do you could do Matt Cardona's radio theme that they played, didn't they? The start of like
the radio silence thing.
What is like Long Island Iced Z? Like
it was
when the lights.
Was it?
Oh, here we
was
go.
Was it his WWE theme that they played initially, but then they played something else? Like I
couldn't hear anything in that.
I don't know Zack Ryder well enough to.
They did. They've got a theme music which sounds very much like the start of his, because I'm just listening to his AEW GCW theme, and it does sound like the start of his theme that he uses in AEW, GCW, and Impact. But it's got a very similar opening to what his WWE one had. So I can get that in there as well.
There's always that as an option, I suppose.
Yeah. Why not? And then I think for some of the images, I think I kind of know what the key ones are. I mean, it'll be
pizza cutters.
Tell you, who do we need now? It's when the conversation goes off down the tangents as well. Is the stuff we need to find. So
Johnny Marr.
Johnny Marr. Yeah. You need to use that photo. I was going to say for you three at the wedding, but do you want to save it for next week?
For next week.
Yeah.
For that. I'm thinking of looking at Johnny Marr, put up that kind of listing on there as well. There was a couple of Gage and AEW. I was thinking the bottles being thrown in.
A pregnant walrus.
A pregnant walrus would be good. Not like that weird Kevin Smith film about where that guy tries to like the walrus. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And it's just based on a random letter where it's a post-it note that someone put up on there that was on a podcast. It's like, why have you made this film? Yeah, Gareth, it's about a Kevin Smith film. Johnny Depp appears in it as a French-Canadian detective. Is that right, WH, or did I dream that?
I've never seen that film. I kind of stopped after the Jesus movie he made, and then I kind of stopped watching Dogma. I saw Jersey Girl, which was fucking horrendous. That was horrible. It's one of the worst films he's ever made, I think. But Clerks 2, that was like, that's it, and then I haven't seen anything since. So.
I loved Clerks.
I'm pretty much the same. I'm like Dogma. I think I was out at Dogma because I love Clerks, obviously.
Yeah.
Who didn't have that time period kind of thing, but
it is called Tusk. Good shout.
Tusk.
It is. Yeah. It is called Tusk. It's a terrible film. It's an awful film. But yeah, Clerks was great. I enjoyed Mallrats, but then I was at university, so like it was perfect.
Mallrats I hated. Chasing Amy I think is his best film.
Chasing Amy. I went to the cinema to see that, then Girlfriend, and then like I went to see Dogma in the cinema, which I still kind of find interesting. It's very fucking weird, like just tonally.
Well, no, it's him. I think he's like a big Wim Wenders fan, so he watched Wings of Desire, right? And then Until the End of the World, which is like the angel movies, because they're just it's just a
now you're
rip-off.
talking.
It's just a ripoff, like how he depicts the angels in Dogma are the same as like the angels. I think it's like played by Bruno Ganz.
It is Bruno Ganz,
and in
Desire,
right? So.
And in in Wings of Desire and the
Until the End of the World.
Until the End of the World's one with Sam Neill, isn't it? And he's going all around Europe. It's one of those weird films that used to be made in the 90s, which cast loads of actors from all over the world in these odd fitting films that'll be set completely like like in Russia or something along those lines. Do you know the kind of films I mean?
Yeah, like it's like Richard Linklater's like Until Sunrise or something like that, right?
Yeah,
It's
just
kind of like the vibe.
You're just going, why am I watching? There's a Billy August film here starring Meryl Streep and Jeremy Irons, and it's set in Argentina and it's big in Germany. Like, what the fuck is this all about? Like, it just makes no sense. Euro puddings, I think they used to call them in Empire
Really?
magazine for those. Yeah, but the Giants. Sorry, go on.
Sorry, I was going to say you can have a picture of Sean Ryder on TFI Friday. There's a reference.
Yes,
I'm scrolling through comments here just to look for.
I remember it so well that it was the first. It was like 6:30. They had to put in a directive that he was not allowed on live television. Like again, but he was just stood there like 6:30, just grabbing his mic, pretending to be Johnny Rotten. He'd bleach his hair blonde, just going fuck off, fuck off, fuck off, fuck off. Just screaming. Afterwards, it just cuts back to Chris Evans going, I'm sorry. I'm really, 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 really sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't know that was going to... And it's just like you gave Sean Ryder a live mic and he's not sober. And I'm not sure he has been for quite a period of time, if we're going to be brutally honest about it.
Didn't he play a security guard or something in 24-Hour Party People?
Is he a security guard in that?
He's something in there, like when they do the bits with, like, you know, where Martin Hand is the producer for the Happy Monday, so Tony Wilson's involved with Happy Monday. So
I love that film.
And it's either him or I think Bez appear as, like, not themselves obviously, but they're in the Happy Monday scenes in that movie as something. So
I can imagine them at the Hacienda.
So that's what I think Gareth was gonna say. I saw where's that show you went to? I was hoping he'd say the Hacienda. Manchester.
That's not.
It's just some flats now. The Hacienda. Yeah. It's
my brother went once towards the tail end, and he said it was quite scary. Just loads of dealers, just everywhere, like just selling pills. And for him, it was just like, we just wanted to go up to the Hacienda because it seemed like a good night. But for any of you, is
that film actually decent? I've never watched 24-Hour Party.
I think it's
actually good. Is it?
Yeah.
It's weird because it's got that Michael Winterbottom style where there's kind of slight breaking of the fourth wall, but Coogan as Tony Wilson kind of works. It's a great cast. It's the mad cast, like, and they the first time I watched it, it was really mad.
Andy Serkis crazy about it. Andy Serkis plays Martin Hannett. That's amazing. That to me is like, it's like, who's this guy playing Martin Hannett? I looked at
Paddy Considine as the New Order manager.
Rob.
And he's just a lunatic. He's in big glasses, and occasionally he just starts, like, see Paddy Considine just kicking off. And John Simmers, Bernard Sumner. Ralph Little as what's his name? Peter Hook. And it's the point like where Ian
that's a good casting.
Ian Curtis, the guy who's playing Ian Curtis, he's having a seizure after a gig, and because they're called Joy Division, these kind of skinheads have turned up, and like they're trying to calm down Ian Curtis. They're not sure what's happened to him. I don't think they're aware he's got epilepsy, and then you just see Ralph Little walk in as Hook and just goes, "Chinned a couple of fucking skinheads," and he's just like takes a fag out, sits down, and just sort of lights it up while they're just like the John Sims character going, "Can you fucking help us? It's all kicking off here." Yeah, Peter Kay in the back of a van with Steve Coogan and a load of hookers. It's mental. It's absolutely mental stuff. A great film.
I will give it. It's always one of those that, like, whenever I remember when it was out,
Sarah will love it.
I wasn't sure if it was. I don't know. I think from the bits that I saw of it or something, like the trailers or something, I just thought like, this isn't. I don't know.
I think it's better.
The Coogan element maybe turned me off a little bit, kind of thing. Like I thought it was probably going to be
too Partridge.
A bit too that style kind of thing. But
there's a bit of that, isn't it? WH.
Yeah, a bit. I mean, I don't have the references to Alan Partridge as much as you guys do, but like I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like, and I thought he was great in it. And like as far as like another movie that's like of that era, which is like Control, right? The kind of Ian Curtis. I think it's better than that film.
Yeah, it is.
It's just fun. I just think it's really fun. Just the performances alone, like, forget Steve Coogan. Just Andy Serkis's part in it is fucking amazing, and John Simmons, Barney, it's great too.
And he's the great thing about the Andy Serkis guy is by the end, like Martin Hannon as well, amazing producer. He's just gigantic, isn't he? By the end, he's just like constantly kind of drinking and the rest of it. It's just it's one of these things where there's like a cast who are really keen on being in this film, and it is like a lot of fun, and because he's playing those kind of games with the story and the storytelling technique, so it's a lot of it where you don't really trust the narrator. So there's a point where there's this whole scene and setup, and then one of the people who actually is being depicted in the scene just turns up as like a cleaner, and he's sort of going, "Yeah, that never happened." Like, and there's little things like that they do, and because Tony Wilson is kind of bit Partridge-esque anyway, it kind of works. And so you've got these bits where he's presenting Wheel of Fortune, and he's doing like a massive long monologue at the beginning because he's read something in the New Statesman, and he's just like desperate to kind of do these kind of quotes. It's a really tremendous film, and
that's my near miss. That I was in the audience for a small TV show Tony Wilson presents, and it was about the prodigy Smack My Bitch Up, and I had my hand up for the whole show, and then the comments, he never came to me, and then my comment was what was Tony Wilson's closing comment for the whole show, and I was like, bastard, like if it had come to me, I could have blown his show in like the first minute. He'd have been well pissed off with me. Maybe he could just see it in my eyes that he just knew that I was on that level. But yeah, that's always a deep regret that. If only Tony had thrown to me after the first minute of the show, could have ruined it for him.
This is the extra post game stuff that you can all be getting. Those of you who are watching on this. Sorry, I went into shameless fucking shill mode there. I should get on and edit, so okay. I'm gonna end this broadcast for the patrons. But thank you all for joining us as always, and I have to go into the routine of finding a way of saying goodbye. So I'm going to say. Bok. It's goodbye in Croatian.
Oh.
See ya.